Chapter 988. In the immortal corpse mound, a wooden coffin fell in front of Lu Chen. Suddenly, the wooden coffin stood upright. An icy cold air gushed out from the wooden coffin. After all, he had seen a lot of demons and ghosts in Jiutian, but this was the first time Lu Chen encountered such a strange situation. It must be known that from the fifth heaven onwards, the body transmigrated. The person in the wooden coffin should have been dead for a long time. At this moment, a silver light suddenly shot out from the direction of the sword mound. Fortunately, Lu Chen reacted quickly and dodged in time. The silver light did not attack Lu Chen. It just brushed past him and stabbed into the ground in front of the wooden coffin. Lu Chen took a closer look. It turned out to be a spear. Under the moonlight, the silver spear was still trembling violently and emitting a buzzing sound. With a bang, the lid of the wooden coffin suddenly opened and hit the ground. Inside the wooden coffin, a mummy stood upright. Then, the mummy opened its eyes. It was a pair of empty eye sockets without eyeballs. The muscles on its face were like withered tree roots. The long hair on its head was sparse, and the light blue robe on its body did not rot. On the contrary, it looked quite neat. The mummy raised its arm and revealed its withered hand. With a light squeeze, the spear instantly returned to its hand. The mummy's movements seemed a bit stiff. It tilted its head and looked at the spear in its hand with its empty eyes. Although it had no eyeballs, its expressionless face allowed one to imagine its current expression. It tilted its head and focused on the spear in its hand. It gently stroked the spear and said stiffly, "Silvergut, you're still here." The spear emitted a buzzing sound as if it was responding to its master. Lu Chen did not dare to be careless. This person's realm was at least 8 or 9 stars of the human king realm. Moreover, the black shadow alone had awakened this person from hundreds of thousands of graves, which was enough to show its strength. His body had not decayed for 1,000 years, which showed how powerful this person was when he was alive. Although he had no equipment or treasures, and his body had become a mummy, Lu Chen did not dare to underestimate this person. Finally, the mummy turned its head and looked at Lu Chen. "I, Chang Ming, do not kill nameless people. Tell me your name." Having said that, he raised the spear in his hand and pointed the tip of the spear. A swift and fierce energy instantly shot out. However, the spiritual energy dissipated in front of Lu Chen and turned into a strong wind, blowing up Lu Chen's white hair. Lu Chen took a deep breath. "Senior Chang Ming, I am solipsistic." "Solipsistic?" Chang Ming snorted coldly and then looked at Lu Chen. 7th level of the symbiosis of gods and devils. After the 6 basic enhancements, the battle spirit's spiritual energy is close to 5 million, and there is also the enhancement of the all living things bloodline, the chaos spiritual pill. It's still worth looking at. Lu Chen could not help but take a deep breath. Chang Ming knew his condition like the back of his hand with just a glance? Since this person was different from ordinary demons and had a very obvious self-awareness, Lu Chen naturally hoped to avoid fighting if possible. "I did not intend to disturb Senior's slumber by chasing the strange object until now." Who knew that the mummy was unmoved? "You have at least 2 sets of god and demon life reversing set on you, so I naturally know that you are here to chase after the emptiness of gods and demons." Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. From Chang Ming's mouth, Lu Chen seemed to be even more certain that the emptiness of gods and demons was one of the god and demon set. "Senior, you know about the god and demon set?" The mummy said, "In my era, there was a rumor that fate played tricks on people. Only by breaking through the Jiutian would one be able to break free from the shackles of fate. And the god and demon set you are talking about should be the god and demon life reversing set. To break through the Jiutian, the God and Demon Life Reversing Set is one of the opportunities. God and Demon Life Reversing Set, countless geniuses who are unwilling to be manipulated by fate will pursue it together." Lu Chen's eyes were round, as if he was getting closer and closer to his goal. "Kid, how many God and Demon Life Reversing Sets do you have?" 4. Lu Chen did not hide it. God and Demon Limitless Sword, God and Demon 9 Transformations, God and Demon Primordial Heart Sutra, God and Demon Lotus Heart. 4. There is actually someone who can collect 4 God and Demon life reversing sets. Looking at your incomplete body, it must not have been easy. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. However, Changming was right. The difficulty of obtaining each piece of the God and Demon set could only be described as heaven-defying. For these 4 pieces of the God and Demon set, Lu Chen did not know how many times he had almost died. Looks like you are also a pitiful person who is being manipulated by fate. Lu Chen frowned. Senior, why do you say that? There are a total of 9 pieces of the God and Demon life reversing set. Even if you have great ability and great luck, you can only obtain 8 pieces at most. The last piece, you will never be able to obtain. Why? Lu Chen could not help but ask. There is one piece that does not exist in this world. The mummy was not in a hurry to make a move. It looked at Lu Chen coldly with an expressionless face. The God and Demon in the God and Demon life reversing set does not exist. If the God and Demon life reversing set cannot be gathered, then it will not be able to unleash its full power. Lu Chen could not help but tremble, his mind trembled, and his body involuntarily took half a step back. The God and Demon set that he had been desperately searching for could not be gathered at all. The last piece did not exist at all? Was there anything more devastating than this? It was as if all his efforts were meaningless. Perhaps, those who had once obstructed him were watching him struggle from somewhere, but it was as if they were watching a clown struggling on its deathbed. I don't believe it. Lu Chen said angrily. Believe it or not, I have no reason to lie to you. After all, you are just a person who is about to die. Lu Chen glared at Changming. Senior, must you stop me? Knowing about the God and Demon life reversing set, you still haven't given up? Give up? Unless I die, the game will never end. Changming's voice was filled with endless vicissitudes. Do you think death is the end? No, death is just the beginning. You and I, in the end, will not be able to escape fate. Solipsistic, I advise you to take out all of your abilities. Let me see if there is anyone who can call himself crazy in front of me, Changming, 1,000 years later. The wind rose and the clouds surged. Moonlight from the dark moon shone down on this boundless graveyard. Under the moon, a dried corpse and a white-haired man with a severed arm stood facing each other. In the entire immortal corpse tomb, the cold wind whistled and the demons were hidden. There were no spectators here, but countless tombstones seemed to be watching this battle. Spear away, spear like shooting stars. Suddenly Changming moved. His speed was completely different from his previous stiff movements. With a silver light, Changming held onto his spear and rushed in front of Lu Chen. Spear away, star shattering. A cold light shot straight towards Lu Chen's right arm. Was this guy really a dried corpse that had been dead for thousands of years? The speed was simply unimaginable. Devil Beast Sovereign, Stage 4 Divine Beast, and so on, were simply moving in slow motion compared to it. Furthermore, this person's control of spirit energy had reached perfection. Outside of his moves, there was not a single trace of spirit energy escaping. This meant that he had already concentrated all of his spirit energy into his moves. Lu Chen's eyes were about to split open. Even with the Heaven's Eye, it was difficult to capture Changming's figure. He didn't even have time to react before the gallbladder pierced through his right shoulder. Solipsistic, rest here with us. Chapter 989. A sharp pain came from his body. Lu Chen's eyes were about to split open. Logically speaking, under such circumstances, Lu Chen should have retreated with all his might, in order to neutralize the impact of the spear. However, Lu Chen did not retreat. Pure Yang 8 trigrams mirror. A golden light shone towards the spear-wielding corpse. Changming had no choice but to use his left arm to block the light. Of course, at this moment, his right hand was still holding onto the spear tightly. With a twist of his hand, the silver pellet quickly rotated, and the spear that was inserted into Lu Chen's shoulder quickly stirred up Lu Chen's wound. Taking advantage of the moment when Changming blocked the pure Yang 8 trigrams mirror, Lu Chen's body suddenly rushed forward, allowing the spear to completely pierce through his right chest. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Sacred lotus sword heart. Lu Chen's move was the opposite, not retreating but advancing. It was truly unexpected. However, Chang Ming suddenly exerted force in his hand, causing the silver pellet to fly out from Lu Chen's wound, and with a flash he was already behind Lu Chen, catching the spear with a backhand move. The power of the Star Shatterer was extremely great. After Chang Ming caught the spear, his entire body was still pushed back, so he did not have the chance to continue attacking Lu Chen from behind. However, Lu Chen's situation was even worse. The battle soul activated the Buddha's salvation and saved his life, but Lu Chen's body was severely injured, and a bloody hole appeared in his chest. Although he had cleverly avoided the explosion of the Star Shatterer, he could no longer lift his right arm. Chang Ming stopped his spear and looked at the heavily injured Lu Chen expressionlessly. "You have some guts." Lu Chen hung his right arm, gasping for breath as he looked at Chang Ming. This person was too strong. His speed and reaction had reached the pinnacle. If not for the pure yang 8 trigrams mirror restraining him, he would have died just now. Now that his right arm was severely injured, it was too difficult to defeat such an opponent. Solipsistic, give up struggling. In front of me, you will definitely die. Chang Ming dragged his spear, step by step. Lu Chen's mind raced. Why was this guy so strong? He had clearly been dead for thousands of years, and the spirit chi in his spirit core had already weakened beyond recognition. As for the strength of his physical body, did he even have a physical body to speak of? This fellow's current strength should not even be 1/10 of his previous strength. However, at this moment, a dried corpse was already so terrifying. It was hard to imagine how terrifying this Chang Ming was when he was alive. Are you still thinking of countermeasures? You really won't shed tears until you see the coffin? No, you've already seen the coffin. If I'm not wrong, you can't use any of your offensive skills. Your only chance of survival is to run. However, in terms of speed, you are still no match for me. Lu Chen looked in the direction of the sword vault. The emptiness of gods and demons should be hiding there. They were only a few thousand meters apart. He was only a few thousand meters away from the next godly demon set. Suddenly, Lu Chen straightened his body, turned his head, and wiped the blood on his collar. Green smoke billowed from his eyes. Chang Ming, I won't run, and I won't give up either. Even if you say that you can't gather all of the God and Devil defying set, that won't change the God and Devil. You're really stubborn. You can't even beat me. Lu Chen sneered. If you were alive, I wouldn't be your match. But now, I don't think so. I think you're daydreaming. If not for the 8 trigrams mirror, you would have died just now. Forget it. Let the silver gallbladder break your final fantasy. With that, Chang Ming stepped on the Qiankuan and Kuan palaces, holding onto the spear with both hands. No matter what, you are an opponent worthy of respect. I will use this move to end you, and not disgrace your name. With a boom, the body of the silver gallbladder's spear ignited with flames. The flames danced and grew endlessly. Immediately after, Chang Ming twisted his fingers and the spear started to spin quickly. In an instant, Chang Ming's figure turned into a ray of fire and shot towards Lu Chen. Spear Soul War Body. Spear Way? Fire Dragon swallows the heavens. Chang Ming's speed was so fast that it was unimaginable. The naked eye could no longer catch him. He shot over 100 meters away, creating a ravine on the ground behind him. Lu Chen's eyes widened, and he shouted in a low voice, "Bedevilment! Divine Devil Star Body!" Lu Chen's speed suddenly exploded, and in the blink of an eye, he had already dodged. Divine Devil Star Body? He actually still has a trick up his sleeve. The red flames spun rapidly, and actually locked onto Lu Chen's figure. Unfortunately, it's all futile in front of me. That guy's star body probably exceeded the second stage. Even the Divine Devil Star Body could not force out his star body, and he could even lock onto Lu Chen's position. After dodging twice, for the third time, Lu Chen used the Void 9 steps. But this time, he did not dodge, but rushed towards Chang Ming. Chang Ming probably did not expect that this guy would suddenly rush towards him. One had to know that Lu Chen's right arm was already crippled, and he did not have a left arm. His offensive skills were almost completely crippled. Rushing over now was no different from a moth flying into a flame, a mantis trying to stop a chariot. You're courting death. Break for me! Chang Ming shouted angrily, and the long spear in his hand was burning fiercely. But at this moment, Lu Chen's drooping right arm suddenly flashed with a golden luster, and a large number of scales flipped over, covering the wound on his chest. At the same time, Lu Chen grabbed the divine devil limitless sword that was hanging beside him. Lu Chen's face was ferocious, and his eyes were rolling with green smoke. Answered, break the sky! A white light exploded over the cemetery, almost illuminating the entire night. The two super strong attacks collided head-on in the air, instantly forming a huge spiritual energy ball, illuminating the night sky. The dormant outer yard disciples in the first and second districts of the Immortal Corpse Mound were awakened by this white light, and they looked at the northern sky in horror. Look, what is that? The spiritual energy ball condensed by the explosion of spiritual energy. How terrifying is the spiritual energy contained in this spiritual energy ball? It actually illuminates the night sky like it's daytime. Who is fighting in the depths of the Immortal Corpse Mound? Could it be a super strong person in the Human King realm? As soon as the voice fell, the spiritual energy ball instantly exploded, and a violent spiritual energy storm swept through the entire Immortal Corpse Mound from an unknown distance. Many people had to open their spiritual energy shields to block the wind. My God, just the aftershock is already so terrifying. It's hard to imagine how terrifying the battle over there is. Could it be that this came from the 4th district? What kind of joke is this? The aftershock of the spiritual energy ball can actually reach 100 miles. The white light flashed and disappeared. Everyone's line of sight, because of the strong light just now, was left with a white illusion, and then returned to normal. They watched the night sky gradually return to the color of ink. At the same time, in the 4th district of the Immortal Corpse Mound, Lu Chen knelt on one knee and coughed violently. The dragon scales faded, and the wound on his chest kept bleeding. The state of divine devil symbiosis disappeared, but his face was so pale that it was a bit scary. Behind him, Chang Ming stood in place, and the night wind blew his sparse hair. At this time, Chang Ming was still expressionless. The flame on the spear in his hand faded, and Lu Chen's silver luster. Taking a deep breath, Chang Ming raised his head and stared at the night sky with his empty eye sockets. Mutated dragon crystal? I didn't expect you to have this. Solipsistic, I really hope I met you when I was still alive. Then we can have a good battle. Lu Chen forcibly stopped coughing. Your spear, why did you stop at the end? Chang Ming turned around and looked at Lu Chen. The corner of his mouth opened stiffly, revealing a somewhat horrifying smile. There is no reason, that is my choice. Chapter 990. To be able to maintain a clear mind in such a predicament, using the 9 steps in the void to lure the enemy, making me think that you only know how to dodge the final attack. Chang Ming quietly looked at Lu Chen. Not bad. As he spoke, a gash suddenly appeared in front of Chang Ming's chest. Following that, his arms and shoulders turned into pieces of dust and fell to the ground. Senior Chang Ming. Chang Ming's words finally sped up. Dust to dust, earth to earth, this is where I belong. Solipsistic, the weakness caused by your mutated dragon crystal is the result of your attribute not being strong enough to fuse with it. Although I don't know why you didn't die from the backlash, I can tell you that there is only one way to break free from this state. Lu Chen stood up shakily. What method? Find the planet's crystal and strengthen your body. One side of Chang Ming's face had already turned into dirt and fell to the ground. He looked up at the sky. Can the 8 pieces of Demon God's fate reversal create a miracle? Unfortunately, I have no chance to see it. Let the silver gallbladder help me witness it. Solipsistic, Chang Ming's battle with June is enough. With a whoosh, Chang Ming's body turned into dirt and collapsed to the ground. Only the silver spear stood between heaven and earth. A gentle breeze blew past, and the originally shining silver spear lost its luster in an instant. The legend had come to an end. Lu Chen walked towards the spear step by step, his heart filled with disappointment. Chang Ming's strength could be said to be the strongest among the opponents he had encountered. Although he had sparred with the mountain people before, at that time, he was weak. Naturally, the mountain people did not display such terrifying fighting strength. Lu Chen could not guess how strong he was. Not only that, although it was only a shallow side, Chang Ming's quick revenge had already made Lu Chen admire him. The silver gallbladder had already lost its original power. The battle just now might be its final battle. At this moment, a green grass broke out from the soil on the ground. Lu Chen looked at the grass in surprise, and couldn't help but think of Chang Ming's words. Death was not the end, but the beginning. A voice in his head told Lu Chen that the grass was the netherworld heavenly dew that he was looking for. Lu Chen carefully dug out the netherworld heavenly dew and kept it in his backpack. He bowed deeply to the silver gallbladder and the dust on the ground and said solemnly, "Senior Chang Ming, thank you." After that, Lu Chen turned around and continued rushing towards the sword tomb. Arriving in front of the sword mound, Lu Chen was already gasping for breath. His footsteps were swaying, but his final determination was still supporting him, refusing to fall. The emptiness of gods and demons was here. At this time, Lu Chen was completely out of condition, but if he gave up now, he did not know if he would still have a chance to catch the emptiness of gods and demons. Standing in front of the sword tomb, Lu Chen summoned Little Green and asked her to help him stop the bleeding. "Little Green, I found the netherworld heavenly dew." At this time, Little Green did not care about the netherworld heavenly dew. She helped Lu Chen treat his wounds with tears in her eyes. "Boss, with your injuries, you can't continue chasing. I'm afraid that if I miss this opportunity, I won't be able to find it next time." Etion had encountered the emptiness of gods and demons before, but after losing the battle, he went to the immortal master tomb many times to look for it, but he never found it again. Lu Chen's situation was different from Etion's, but he did not dare to miss the opportunity. Using Little Green to treat his wounds, Lu Chen sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to rest. He was too tired. After an unknown period of time, Lu Chen suddenly opened his eyes and found that his surroundings were still dark. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. "Little Green, how long did I rest just now?" "Boss, 3 hours. But what you've been chasing, is it that thing? It's always there. I saw that it didn't run away, so I didn't wake you up." Lu Chen looked carefully. A few hundred meters away, a black shadow was lying in the air. The reason why he could tell that there was something there was because its color was darker than the night, and its body was flowing slowly. It seemed to be a living thing. Lu Chen let out a sigh of relief and frowned. "Could it be that guy is waiting for me? If I knew, I would have slept a little longer." Although he said that, Lu Chen did not dare to sleep again. The sky was still light. Who knew if there would be any changes after dawn? "Limitless, how do we break the sword tomb?" Lu Chen looked at the limitless demon god sword. "The weapons here almost don't have a weapon spirit. Without the owner's spiritual power, they only rely on their subconscious attacks. This subconscious attack has already become their instinct. Under such circumstances, unless these broken weapons are completely destroyed, the intruder will be attacked endlessly. Even if Chang Ming is in his peak state, I'm afraid he will be exhausted to death. Wouldn't that be very difficult to pass?" Lu Chen frowned. "Boss, have you forgotten about my old profession?" Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. "The limitless demon god sword's old profession." "That's right, its old profession was to devour weapons. Boss, these weapons don't have a master's spiritual power infused into them, so they're basically ownerless items. Moreover, they don't have weapon spirits, so I can easily suppress their consciousness. Naturally, I can swallow them, but they're already in a broken state, so they won't be of much help to me. They don't taste good either. They're all rusty old things, so they're hard to swallow, but for you, boss, I'll reluctantly eat a little." Lu Chen sucked in a breath of air. So this was how the limitless sword passed through the sword tomb. "Boss, but you have to be careful. Although some weapons do not have a weapon spirit, if they are made of special materials and have a deep-rooted obsession, just like that silver gallbladder, they can still be summoned by their owner after thousands of years. I am unable to suppress this kind of weapon directly, so you still need to be vigilant." Lu Chen nodded. "All right, if there aren't too many weapons attacking me, I can deal with them. We just need to catch that emptiness of gods and demons. There's no need to fight." After agreeing on the strategy, Lu Chen recalled Little Green and stepped into the sword tomb with the limitless demon god sword. Just as he entered the sword tomb, Lu Chen noticed that the countless weapons inserted into the sword tomb began to sway slightly. Not long after, the entire sword tomb was shaking. "Boss, be careful." Lu Chen nodded, his gaze fixed on the floating black shadow in the distance. That guy was still there, as if he was watching Lu Chen's every move. "You want to see me make a fool of myself? You definitely won't be able to escape this time," Lu Chen said coldly. He took a deep breath and continued to walk into the sword tomb. Suddenly, several weapons broke free from the ground and stabbed toward Lu Chen. Then, more and more weapons shot out from the ground. A large number of weapons gathered and rushed toward Lu Chen. There were so many weapons: broken swords, broken spears, talisman dust, magic staffs, bows, and so on. As long as it was a weapon that could be seen normally, it could be seen here. It was like entering the creation space was the ultimate difficulty, but just as those weapons approached Lu Chen, the limitless demon god sword exploded with energy. The sword spun on its own, and the black and white spirit chi spun with the sword, forming a whirlpool. "Ha! Come over here." The limitless demon god sword made a rare sound. A large number of broken weapons were directly sucked into the whirlpool, and the limitless demon god sword had already begun to devour them. Lu Chen frowned. "Damn, is this my opportunity or yours?" Chapter 991. The limitless sword of the divine and demon had described the sword catacomb to be very dangerous, but in the end, it was eating very happily. The limitless sword of the divine and demon was really a bottomless pit. Countless weapons were sucked into the vortex. Even if the limitless sword said that these weapons would only improve it a little, with such a large amount, it was unknown if they could improve the limitless sword. Unfortunately, Lu Chen could not check the limitless sword's status at this time. "Boss, we can't stay here for long. There are demonic artifact spirits awakening, and there is more than one. Quickly go and catch the emptiness of gods and demons." The limitless sword of the divine and demons seemed to have realized something was wrong and hurriedly said to Lu Chen, "Demonic artifact spirits?" Lu Chen did not know what they were for the time being, but from the limitless sword's tone, he knew that once that thing came out, he would have to fight again. In his current state, it would be very difficult to kill his way out of the encirclement. Lu Chen immediately activated divine demon symbiosis. "I'll see where you run to." 9 void steps. After saying that, Lu Chen flashed and pounced on the black shadow. In front of him, the black shadow did not run this time. It waited until Lu Chen approached. At this time, Lu Chen could see clearly what this black mass was. This black mass was surrounded by a faint white fog. Inside, it was a black vortex with specks of light. Looking carefully at the black vortex, Lu Chen could not help but be shocked. Looking deep into the black vortex, he could see countless spirits struggling inside. "This is..." Lu Chen was stunned. Etian had only said that he had fought with the emptiness of gods and demons demon before, but the emptiness of gods and demons was not in front of Lu Chen at all. After seeing the emptiness of gods and demons' true appearance, Lu Chen was at a loss. Suddenly, a voice sounded. This voice seemed to be formed by countless vengeful spirits, making one's hair stand on end. "You want to subdue me?" Lu Chen's eyelids twitched, but he quickly calmed down. There was no time to waste. "Not bad. You have the 4 great fiend god fate-reversing fragments. Along the way, you have killed 2 opponents who were far stronger than you. You can be considered to have some strength. However, if you want me to willingly become a part of your body, you have yet to meet my requirements." Lu Chen stared at the shadow. "What other conditions do you need? Do you dare to enter my great void realm? Within the realm of my emptiness of gods and demons, countless souls of the deceased have gathered. As long as they are imprisoned by me, they will not be able to escape. They will lose their minds, or even perish." Lu Chen frowned. Wasn't this clearly sending him to his death? What? Did he not dare? "If you don't dare, how can you be my master?" How could the fiend god fate-reversing set be so easily obtained? If you don't have the courage and strength, I think you should give up on this idea as soon as possible. By the way, Do you really think you can catch me? Even the fiend gods can't do anything to me. Do you think you can catch me? Lu Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at the strange black ball. Suddenly, Lu Chen said, "If I can come out from there, are you willing to be my left arm? If you can come out alive, it means that you have the qualifications to be my master. Naturally, I am willing to be your left arm." Lu Chen nodded. "All right, I can enter the realm of the emptiness of gods and demons, but don't make things difficult for my friends." "Friends? Are you talking about the limitless sword? I can't do anything to it. Moreover, I don't need to do anything to it. We originally came from the same origin." "No, I'm not talking about it." Lu Chen finished speaking and summoned Rhubarb, Xiaomin, and Little Green. "You're talking about them? My goal is to find a suitable master. Obviously, they are not my target. I can let them safely leave the immortal corpse mound." Lu Chen nodded, turned around, and handed the yellow spring heavenly dew grass to Little Green. "Little Green, I don't know if I can bring you to find other materials. Give this spirit herb to the medicine boy and let him cultivate more. It should be enough for the three of you to use. At least you still have a chance to reconstruct your body." "Boss, what are you talking about? You can't fight in your current state." "Boss, you can't believe it. What if it's lying to you?" "Woof, woof, woof." Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. Old Yi said that there were records of the emptiness of gods and demons a long time ago. Chang Ming also confirmed this point. "I think the emptiness of gods and demons is right. It can still exist in the immortal corpse mound, which means that no one can truly capture it. In the Jiutian, there are countless experts. If they can't subdue the emptiness of gods and demons, then I—" Lu Chen smiled. The answer was self-evident. Relying on brute force, Lu Chen absolutely had no hope. "Since that's the case, I believe he won't use this trick to lure me to death." "But boss, didn't Chang Ming say that it's impossible to complete the life-defying set? Since that's the case, why are you still taking the risk?" Lu Yi said anxiously. "Is it because you don't have much time left?" Lu Chen took a deep breath and narrowed his eyes slightly. There was indeed not much time left for the final battle, and he was now in deep adversity. Not to mention finding a new treasure to break the situation. But this was not the most important thing. Lu Chen said firmly, "I don't believe Chang Ming's words. Or rather, I think there must be something that he doesn't know. If the life-defying set really doesn't exist, why is there a legend of the life-defying set? Where did they hear about the emptiness of gods and demons? Everything in the universe has a cause and effect. If there's a beginning, there's an end. I believe that it must exist somewhere. But boss, even if it really exists, no one has found it for 10,000 years. What if you can't find the emptiness of gods and demons? Then I'll use the incomplete life-defying set to defy this 9 heavens domain." Lu Chen said resolutely, "So, the emptiness of gods and demons, I must obtain it. Alright, you guys hurry up and leave. I don't know how long the limitless sword can last. Remember to bring the limitless sword back to the demonic academy. If I don't come back, you guys wait for Lu Yi and tell her everything." After saying that, Lu Chen walked towards the emptiness of gods and demons without looking back. "Emptiness of gods and demons, when I return, I hope you won't disappoint me." "Oh? I actually hope that there will be a day when I show off my skills. Solipsistic, come in. I can't wait to see if the emptiness of gods and demons realm is your end, or another starting point for you." Lu Yi and the rest watched as Lu Chen passed through the nebula and disappeared into the boundless darkness. "Boss?" Lu Yi's tears fell like rain. This was the first time their boss left them behind. This also meant that this time, Lu Chen knew how dangerous the road ahead was, and that he might not be able to come out again. Rhubarb bit Lu Yi's close. It seemed to understand the meaning of the limitless sword of gods and demons. The limitless sword felt that the danger was getting closer and closer, and they couldn't stay any longer. Since their boss wasn't here, it would protect Little Green and the rest. 4 days later, at the Demonic Academy, Zhong Xianji's special envoy personally came to visit. It was Lord Yi, who had attended the class previously. The Demonic Academy's representative wasn't Dean Lu Chen, but a sea of clouds. "Your nameless dean is now famous. This time, the Demonic Academy is challenging the Seoul Martial Hall. Who knows how many deans from Xingyuan continent have requested to watch the battle? A sea of clouds rolled his eyes. Right now, he felt like his head was about to explode. Nameless still hadn't sent any news. At the same time, Li Wei still hadn't come out from the secret passage. However, Zhong Xiangu had already come to urge them. Since Nameless isn't here, then it's fine. Originally, the opening of the Seoul Martial Hall was only a few days away from the re-ranking of the various deans. Then let's make it 3 days later. This time, I've already helped you delay it for a long time. 3 days later? What's wrong? Is there a problem? Lord Yi looked at a sea of clouds strangely. A sea of clouds, you should know that if you miss the opening of the Seoul Martial Hall, you'll have to wait 10 years. Or did something happen on Nameless' side? A sea of clouds knew that Lu Chen was going to the Immortal Corpse Mound this time for the Seoul Martial Hall. Naturally, he wouldn't tell him the truth. He could only grit his teeth and agree. All right, 3 days later, I'll send Nameless to Zhongxingu. Chapter 992. After sending off Lord Yi with much difficulty, a sea of clouds went to find Yi Tian to discuss countermeasures. In 3 days, the rankings of all the major academies will be updated. At that time, the heads of all the academies will head to Zhongxingu. If Nameless can't make it in time, then not only will we lose the chance to enter the Seoul Martial Hall, we will also be accused of going back on our word. Yi Tian's face was serious. I know, but I can't say that we'll give up the chance to enter the Seoul Martial Hall now. A sea of clouds was anxious. Sigh, why isn't there any news from Nameless? My sound transmission glyph can't even reach Nameless. Yi Tian frowned. What they were most afraid of now was that Nameless had met with misfortune. At this moment, a disciple of the academy hurriedly came to report. Uncle A Sea of Clouds, Uncle Yi Tian, Miss Lu, Xiaomin, and Rhubarb are back. A sea of clouds and Yi Tian looked at each other and rushed out. Lu Yi told a sea of clouds and Yi Tian about Lu Chen's situation. Boss told us to come back first and entered the emptiness of gods and demons realm. Xiao Min and I are both spirits and were caught by other cultivators. We could only hurry back at night. Luckily, Rhubarb brought us back. The emptiness of gods and demons realm? Yi Tian's eyes widened. He didn't know that to obtain the emptiness of gods and demons, they had to go through this test. If that was the case, then the Seoul Martial Hall was a small matter. Nameless life and death were uncertain. What should we do now? A sea of clouds sighed. Even though he was experienced, he was already in a terrible fix. At this moment, Yi Tian suddenly said, "A sea of clouds, let Long Xiang and the others come back first." Yi Tian, what are you doing? Yi Tian took a deep breath. Elect the vice president. Since Nameless isn't here, we'll nominate him ourselves. A sea of clouds, you nominate me as the vice president of the Demonic Academy. If Nameless can't make it back in time, I'll take his place in the battle against the Seoul Martial Hall. Tian, your injuries. How many years has it been since you last fought? The Seoul Martial Hall is extremely tough, and it's as dangerous as any hunting area. Yi Tian stood up and walked to the window. From here, he could see the disciples practicing in the martial arts practice field. He could also see people coming in and out of the meditation pavilion and the teaching pavilion in the distance. Today, the Demonic Academy had more than 800 disciples. The academy that used to be empty now had some semblance of life. With so many geniuses gathered here, the Demonic Academy's future will definitely exceed all of our expectations. We must provide more support for the students. Yi Tian turned around and looked at a sea of clouds, Little Green, and the others. The emptiness of gods and demons realm is a tribulation that Nameless can't avoid. I don't know if he can survive this tribulation. We can't help him. But what we can do is to look after the academy for him. Although half of my body is crippled, Nameless can still lead the Demonic Academy to where it is today. As a member of the Demonic Academy, why should I be afraid when even the dean is like this? As for the secret passage, a sea of clouds, I'll leave it to Li Wei, Wu Xian, and Skyfall. Hyun, you're much stronger than me, but I think I should go. A sea of clouds, you used to be the dean. The demonic academy still needs you to preside over the overall situation. Staying in the academy is more important than going to the Seoul Martial Hall. Itaeon smiled. Besides, I'm confident that I can beat you in actual combat. A sea of clouds naturally understood this principle. Itaeon's current arrangement was the most reasonable. After a long time, a sea of clouds took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, I understand. I'll immediately inform the other instructors to come back. But Itaeon. A sea of clouds wanted to say something else, but in the end he only said, you should prepare well in these 2 days. After saying this, a sea of clouds turned around and left in a hurry. Itaeon knew that this old friend of his was worried about him, but there was no better way at the moment. Soon, all the instructors outside the demonic academy urgently returned to the academy. The instructors held a meeting and elected Itaeon as the vice dean of the demonic academy. There was only 1 day left until the Seoul Martial Hall's challenge. They would set off early tomorrow morning. In a small independent courtyard in the dormitory area, Itaeon sat alone in the courtyard and drank a few cups of wine. He had originally decided to retire, but who would have thought that not only would he become the vice dean of the demonic academy, but he would also represent the demonic academy to go to the Seoul Martial Hall tomorrow. After drinking the wine in his cup, Itaeon raised his hand and a tiger head scimitar appeared in his hand. Under the moonlight, an old man was dancing with a scimitar. The scimitar was sparkling and his figure was ethereal. With a long scimitar in hand, Itaeon seemed to have found the feeling he had before. Once, he was only 1 step away from the human king realm. Once, he fought with the rank 6 Flaming Corpse King controlled by the emptiness of gods and demons and cut off one of its arms. However, not long after, he was already out of breath. With a simple swing of the scimitar and a twist of his body, he fell directly to the ground. Picking up the scimitar, Itaeon let out a long sigh. After all, he was no longer the all-powerful Ian. Nameless figure flashed through his mind when he closed his eyes. The scene of Lu Qin killing the 3 powerhouses in 1 hit in the nether prison was imprinted in his mind. That sword strike changed the color of heaven and earth. Yong had a weak body. If Nameless could do it, why couldn't he? Suddenly, Itaeon's eyes were burning with anger. He raised the long scimitar with 1 hand. Again! The next morning, Long Xiang, Saiji, Lui, Xiaomin, and Rhubarb followed Itaeon to Zhongxingu. The reason why Lui and the others went together was that if their boss could come out of the great illusionary land in time, he would definitely go to Zhongxingu. Saiji summoned his mount, the golden bowl of Luohan, and set off with everyone. A few hours later, Little Green saw a few vague shadows in the clouds in the distance. What's that? Why are they in the clouds? Lui asked. Saiji said, that's where Zhongxingu is. Zhongxinji's style is not on the same level as ours. Their base is Mount Yunxian, and Mount Yunxian is made up of floating islands in the sky. Floating mountains? Xiaomin's eyes widened. Zhongxingu was just their base, and it had some real celestial aura. Saiji's analogy was very appropriate. Mount Yunxian was not a mountain, but was made up of a main mountain and many smaller mountains. In the middle of the majestic and magnificent mountain, there were many smaller mountains of different sizes and shapes. Between the smaller mountains, there were thick iron chains. Flying is prohibited around Mount Yunxian. Let's stop at the nearest celestial mountain, and then head to Mount Yunxian from the heaven-connecting lock, Saiji said as they landed near a small mountain and put away the golden bowl of Luohan. From afar, these mountains were not big, but when they were in the middle of it, they realized that these mountains were like small mountains and not small at all. Not far from here, there were many buildings, but Saiji said that it was the training ground of Zhongxinji's disciples. They could not go near it and could only pass by. From the small path to the edge of the island, in front of them, a huge chain was connected to another mountain in the distance. Let's go, we have to go to Mount Baixian first. Only the second largest mountain has the heaven-connecting lock to Mount Yunxian. Chapter 993. Today was the day that the Demonic Academy's Seoul Martial Hall was opened and the ranking was updated. There were all kinds of mounts landing around them. On the heaven-connecting chains, there were rows of small black dots moving towards the second largest mountain, Immortal Reverence Mountain. The chains weren't easy to walk on, and the wind was strong. It was difficult for ordinary people to pass through the heaven-connecting chains. Etienne looked at Rhubarb strangely. Little Green and Xiaomin were supported by Long Xiang and Saiji respectively, but Rhubarb was walking on his own. This guy was walking on the heaven-connecting chains as if it was flat ground. Why do I feel that Rhubarb is different from before? However, Etienne didn't think too much about it. He led the group through the heaven-connecting chains. After a few hours, they finally arrived at Immortal Reverence Mountain. Lord Yi was already waiting there. When he saw the people from the demonic academy, he went up to them. However, he didn't see Nameless. Then, why isn't Nameless here? At this point, Etienne couldn't hide it anymore. Lord Yi, something happened to Nameless. She probably won't be able to make it to the Soul Martial Hall. I'll do it this time. Lord Yi frowned. You appointed a vice president at the last minute? Etienne nodded. Lord Yi could guess what happened, but he kept shaking his head. Etienne, are you sure you want to challenge the Soul Martial Hall? Your situation? Etienne took a deep breath. I'll try my best. Forget it. This is your own business. Let's go. I'll take you to Immortal Cloud Mountain. Get ready. The Soul Martial Hall will open in the afternoon. There will be many people watching. Immortal Corpse Mound, deep inside the Sword Mound. Somewhere in the Sword Mound, the space here was different from the surroundings. This place was surrounded by a circle of white fog. Most of the interior was previously pitch black, but many specks of light could be seen. Lu Chen didn't know how long it had been since he entered the emptiness of gods and demons. At this moment, he was just one of the thousands of starlight. Those starlight were thousands of vengeful souls surfing the net. At this moment, an incalculable amount of starlight was rushing towards Lu Chen. After entering the realm of the emptiness of gods and demons, Lu Chen realized that there was no need to fight at all because he was completely helpless. He could only watch as countless vengeful spirits pounced on him. They entered his body and tore at his consciousness. Finally, all the vengeful spirits in the entire space had disappeared, leaving only Lu Chen as a dot of light. Lu Chen only felt his consciousness blur. There were many things in his mind that did not belong to him. I was only a step away from stepping into the immortal Tao. Why did I fail at the last step? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. I don't want to die. I can't die. If I die, who will protect my people? I've already done everything. Why can't I touch that immortal door? I can't accept this. Lu Chen only felt that his brain was about to explode. He had a splitting headache. He wanted to chase away these thoughts, but he was powerless. He could only endure the unimaginable pain. Beside the waterfall, someone practiced sword techniques day after day, going against the flow of the waterfall. In the Taoist sacred land, someone was receiving the inheritance. In the dark arena, someone was covered in blood, standing in front of a pile of corpses. He was exhausted, but he had finally persevered until the end. Under the setting sun, a beautiful woman tidied a man's clothes and said reluctantly, "Go home early." In the dark hall, a giant sitting on a throne said loudly, "You must break through the sixth heaven this time." In a certain primordial world, everyone respectfully sent off a figure. That person might be the hope of their entire race. However, in the blink of an eye, he saw the world in misery and suffering. That figure charged recklessly towards the murderer of his people. Too many other people's experiences flooded in at the same time, causing Lu Chen to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He held his head with one hand, grabbing his scalp tightly. He curled up into a ball in pain and howled at the top of his lungs. Green mist gushed out uncontrollably from the corners of his tightly shut eyes. The dragon scales on his right arm flipped without any pattern, and his body erupted with spiritual energy again and again. Get out of here. The pain did not lessen with Lu Chen's howls. Gradually, Lu Chen could not hold on any longer. His consciousness blurred and he fainted. The entire emptiness of gods and demons was silent. The only remaining light was gradually extinguished. More than 10 years ago, on a snowy night in an alley, a little boy held a wrinkled paper bag in his hand and ran with all his might. He rounded a corner, pulled a little girl who was waiting there and ran. A few fierce-looking demons followed closely behind. In the end, the child did not manage to escape and was blocked in a corner. Little bastard, you dare to steal things at such a young age. You're definitely not a good person in the future. Without parents to discipline you, you can only be a robber in the future. I have to teach you a lesson now, so that you won't harm people in society in the future. The little girl stood in front of the boy and shouted with her hands outstretched, "Don't touch my brother. Get out of here, little bastard." A burly man pushed the little girl away. That's right, this little girl is in cahoots with him, yet she still dares to protect him? I'll teach you a lesson too. As he spoke, the man walked towards Lu Yi, who had fallen in the corner, and raised his thick arms. Lu? The boy's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as he pounced on Lu. That day, Lu Chen could not remember how many punches and kicks landed on his body, but he still protected Lu Yi with all his might. After an unknown period of time, the group of people finally left, but Lu Chen could not move at all. "Brother!" Lu Yi wriggled out of Lu Chen's arms and shook Lu Chen while crying. "Brother! Don't leave me alone. Yi has already lost her parents. She can't lose her brother too. Brother! You said you won't leave me. You're lying. Brother, I beg you. Please wake up. He doesn't want to eat meat anymore. I don't want anything. As long as you wake up, brother." After an unknown period of time, Lu Chen finally opened his eyes after Lu Yi shook him again and again. "So noisy. Can't you let your brother rest?" "Brother." Lu Yi ignored the snot and tears on her face and threw herself onto Lu Chen. "I knew you wouldn't leave me alone." Lu Chen raised his arm with difficulty and stroked Lu Yi's hair. "Silly girl, if I die, then you'll be lonely and no one will take care of you anymore. Here, the chicken steak I snatched." Lu Chen took out the paper bag from his arms and handed it to Lu. "Hee, they only cared about beating me and forgot about the chicken steak. Now we're in for a treat." On a snowy night, a pair of siblings hid under the roof and sat side by side, happily eating the chicken steak that had been cold for a long time. It was as if there was nothing more delicious than this in the world. "If I die, then no one in this world will take care of you any." Suddenly, Lu Chen's eyes opened abruptly. Thick green smoke came out of his eyes and it was stronger than ever. This girl was so noisy. Couldn't she let him rest properly? "I can't die." Within the god-fiend Great Void Realm, that spot of light that had already weakened began to flicker once more. Chapter 994. Countless memories flooded his mind, almost suffocating Lu Chen. At this rate, he would never be able to break out of the emptiness of gods and demons' realm. Perhaps he shouldn't reject them, because he couldn't resist them at all. Those memories were like a tsunami. How could he resist them? Since he couldn't resist them, he had to find another way. Lu Chen gritted his teeth and sat cross-legged. The source of the headache is the conflict between the external consciousness and my own consciousness. Since I can't resist the external consciousness, there's only one way. Forget my own consciousness. Selfless. Lu Chen relied on his last bit of willpower to force himself into the selfless state. Fortunately, he had used the selfless state many times before and was very familiar with it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to enter the selfless state. Forget himself, accept those memories that didn't belong to him. He listened to their past, went through their experiences, and felt their feelings. Among these people, there were some who shouldered the hopes of their clansmen, some who were unwilling to be mediocre, and some who came across fortuitous encounters. Among them, there were heroes who cherished the world, unpardonable devils, unyielding war gods, and petty people who saw the wind as the wind blew. There were humans and other races. Countless fates intertwined and converged, but in the end, they all had the same destination. Immortal Corpse Mound. In the end, these people failed to set foot on the seventh heavenly layer. Countless experts had perished in a place so close to the immortal Tao. The Jiutian was like a path to heaven paved with countless corpses. Since Lu Chen began to accept these memories, his headache gradually eased. His tightly knitted brows unconsciously relaxed, and he was immersed in the countless stories. After an unknown period of time, the spiritual core in Lu Chen's body turned into a chaos spiritual core on its own and slowly rotated. Faint black fog exuded from Lu Chen's body. The fog slowly lingered around Lu Chen, dimming the faint light emitted from Lu Chen's body, as if Lu Chen had blended into the darkness. After an unknown period of time, Lu Chen slowly opened his eyes. He had exited the selfless state, but there was no longer any painful expression on his face, and his eyes were incomparably clear. At this time, a voice sounded in the space. "Solipsistic, I didn't expect you to make it. Those starlights are not vengeful spirits. I also did not capture those vengeful spirits. I only listened to their past. Those starlights are their memories. If you keep resisting those memories, you will lose yourself in those memories, but you can forget yourself and listen to their past. You have used another method to hold on to your heart. The sea can hold all rivers, and it's big if it's big. The galaxy is vast, and there are a myriad of races standing in great numbers. Only such magnanimity can accommodate all things in the world. Solipsistic, you are my master." In the next second, Lu Chen had already exited the emptiness of gods and demons realm, and the emptiness of gods and demons was still floating in front of him. "That girl is your sister?" Lu Chen nodded. "That girl probably didn't know that this is the second time she has pulled you out of the gates of hell." Lu Chen smiled slightly. The emptiness of gods and demons said, "Solipsistic, I can be your left arm, but don't use my power easily. Your body is still too weak right now. Heal your weak state as soon as possible." Lu Chen also wanted to be healed, but the problem was that he had not had the chance yet. "Are you ready? It might hurt a little." Lu Chen smiled. "I should be able to hold on." Without saying anything else, the emptiness of gods and demons instantly shot toward Lu Chen's broken left shoulder. The white fog around the black cloud retreated, leaving only the core of the black cloud. The cloud transformed into countless tentacles, piercing Lu Chen's already healed skin and drilling into his flesh. Lu Chen was suddenly in so much pain that he saw stars. "Can't this surgery be done after anesthetics?" The black tentacles found the meridians, then entangled and merged. This process was unbearable for Lu Chen. Lu Chen trembled all over. He wanted to use his left hand to grab his right shoulder, but he did not dare to move. He could only grit his teeth and endure. This half an hour felt like a century. When his arm was reattached, Lu Chen was already sweating profusely and his face was pale. "Is it done?" Lu Chen gritted his teeth and asked. "It's done," his left arm said. Lu Chen looked at his left arm and was shocked. At this moment, Lu Chen's arm did not match his body size at all. Whether it was the model, shape, or color, it was completely different from his original body. The arm was almost the same size as his entire body. There were exaggerated bone spurs sticking out from the shoulder of the huge arm. The thick muscles of the arm were obvious, and the skin was dark. The right hand did not look like a human's palm, but more like a demon's claw. "Brother, did you pick up the wrong arm?" Lu Chen was speechless. Although he had rich experience in assembling limbs, this was his original body. His original body had a pair of fox ears, so he could endure it. But the arm was not so exaggerated. "This is my original appearance. Don't you like it?" Lu Chen's face darkened. "Domineering is quite domineering, but can't we at least have a uniform style? Can you restrain yourself a little? I can't even eat like this." "All right then, I will imitate your original appearance. But if you burst out with spiritual energy, don't blame me for becoming like this again." Lu Chen shook his head. All right, this was the only way. At least he still looked normal. Remember, when you cultivate in the future, try to use the mixed celestial and demon cultivation method. The emptiness of gods and demons' arm can only be driven by chaos spiritual energy. Actually, many people want to subdue me, but even if they catch me, they can't use it. Without the mixed celestial and demon cultivation method, they can't use the emptiness of gods and demons' arm at all. once they forcefully use it, the spiritual energy in their body will be blocked, and they will explode and die. Lu Chen suddenly thought of the demon that fought with Etion. It was probably because he had forcefully used the emptiness of gods and demons' arm to self-destruct. Right, does the emptiness of gods and demons' arm have any skills? You are a part of the life-defying set, so you should have some skills. Lu Chen asked, why can't I see your attributes? I am a part of your body. Naturally, you can't see it. Let me tell you. The emptiness of gods and demons' arm. It passively increases the damage of all skills by 100%. I have a skill, but this skill has two forms. The emptiness of gods and demons attack form, also known as void shattering, enlarges the arm and vibrates the spiritual energy in the air, causing the enemy's spiritual energy to go out of control. If some weak people are also in the attack range, it can directly damage their spirit core. In this state, it has an attack effect similar to a Buddhist seal. I took a look, for example, your void shattering can directly attack from a distance without hitting the opponent. The emptiness of gods and demons defense form, also known as void guard, restores the emptiness of gods and demons' arm state. It absorbs damage that is less than 10,000 times your maximum spiritual energy. Void Guard doesn't have the concept of durability. As long as the opponent can't destroy Void Guard in one go, it can block attacks indefinitely. If you want, you can also let your left arm fly out to protect others. Lu Chen took a breath of cold air. The emptiness of gods and demons' arm was a bit strong. Chapter 995. Just a simple, passive 100% increase in the damage of all skills. This alone was enough to make Lu Chen pleasantly surprised. In addition, Void Guard was also very fierce. The attack needed to directly damage the opponent's spirit core and didn't need to hit the opponent. Void Guard could be said to make up for Lu Chen's weakness in defense. Although his own spiritual energy wasn't high, his battle soul's spiritual energy was close to 5 million. 10,000 times the attack was 50 billion. The key was that Lu Chen's battle soul could continue to improve. How many people could reach 50 billion in a single attack? As long as the Void Guard couldn't be broken in one attack, then it couldn't be broken. Although Lu Chen basically didn't defend, it was still necessary to prepare defensive skills. The blood sacrifice shield couldn't keep up with the current battle strength. The appearance of Void Guard made up for this weakness. In addition, I can communicate with souls, but it's not useful for your battle. Also, you can check the other life-reversing divine demon set. Some skills will be strengthened. You also have dual divine demon heavenly might? Then you should have 6 pieces of the life-reversing divine demon set. Lu Chen had used the Lotus Heart of Gods and Demons, Mixed Divine Demon Cultivation Technique, Limitless Divine Demon Sword, and Divine Demon 9 transformations in the Immortal Corpse Tomb. Only the dual divine demon heavenly might was not displayed by Lu Chen. Even the emptiness of gods and demons only discovered it after it connected to Lu Chen's shoulder. Lu Chen said, I couldn't completely trust you before, so it's impossible for me to not be on guard against you. The dual divine demon heavenly might is my final trump card. Lu Chen checked the situation of the dual divine demon set. The main changes were the mixed divine demon cultivation technique and the dual divine demon heavenly might. The mixed divine demon cultivation technique's cultivation effect had increased. Previously it was 80 points per minute, but now it was 100 points per minute. In addition, after the mixed divine demon cultivation technique leveled up, there would be a new, exclusive effect. This was the most important thing. The heavenly might of the celestial and demonic dual heaven's wrath had increased from 3,200,000 to 5 million. The increase was huge. It was second only to the increase of the 2 heavenly might levels. In addition, the attribute extraction became faster. The divine demon heavenly might could directly determine whether the attribute extraction from the opponent's consciousness, becoming an instant skill. As for the other skills, there were changes to their cooldowns and durations. In the state of bedevilment, he would lose his mind, his speed would slow down, and the cooldown of the Holy Lotus Sword Heart would be shortened. Although nothing seemed to have changed on the surface, The emptiness of gods and demons passive had already strengthened all of these skills. Solipsistic, it's time for me to go. The emptiness of gods and demons arm. I'll leave it to you. Aren't you the arm of the emptiness of gods and demons? I'm just the manifestation of the consciousness of the emptiness of gods and demons arm. Now, you are the owner of the emptiness of gods and demons arm. It doesn't need two consciousnesses to control its actions, so there's no need for me to exist. Wait, do you know where the other life reversing sets are? I'm sorry, I don't know either. That's right, without my control, those devil spirits are about to awaken. The voice became softer and softer. Your current state is too bad, you should leave this place as soon as possible. If you can reach the human king realm, remember to go inside the immortal corpse tomb to take a look. Finally, the voice disappeared. Lu Chen looked at his left arm. At this time, that exaggerated left arm had finally returned to its original state. Looking around, the sword tomb began to stir again. It seemed that the so-called devil spirits were about to awaken. Lu Chen quickly used his movement technique and quickly left the sword tomb. Damn, I suddenly have a left arm, I'm actually not used to it. Lu Chen shook his arm, feeling a little uncomfortable. Hee, I have a left arm again. I don't need to use my right hand to do things in the future. Not only did he have a left arm, but it was also one of the life-reversing sets. Lu Chen was in an extremely good mood. Soon, Lu Chen arrived in front of Chang Ming's spear. Lu Chen thought about it and decided to take the silver gallbladder with him. Chang Ming had also said that he wanted the silver gallbladder to witness his future achievements. If he didn't bring it with him, how could he witness it? Senior Chang Ming should have meant that. I didn't understand it thoroughly at the beginning. Lu Chen frowned. The more he thought about it, the more he thought so. Although the silver gallbladder did not have any spirit energy and the spear body was dim, to be able to become Chang Ming's weapon, the material itself was not ordinary. As a weapon, it should be able to be used first. Lu Chen held a few flowers in his hand and felt that it was very convenient. Right at this moment, a silver light suddenly flashed across the body of the silver gallbladder spear. The silver light flashed and disappeared, giving Lu Chen a fright. He hurriedly turned his head to look at the pile of dust on the ground. It was slightly raised and was formed from Chang Ming's corpse. Senior Chang Ming, it can't be that you don't want me to take the silver gallbladder, right? Lu Chen felt his hair stand on end. The silver gallbladder flashed with another silver light. Lu Chen frowned. He did not know what the silver gallbladder was trying to express. After thinking carefully, he inserted the silver gallbladder into the ground. Forget it, Senior Chang Ming, let me go. I really don't dare to covet his weapon. All right, I'll bury Senior Chang Ming while I'm at it. Lu Chen moved the soil on the ground into Chang Ming's coffin, closed the coffin lid again, placed the coffin back in the tomb, and straightened the stone tablet. The words on the stone tablet had already been worn away by the wind, so Lu Chen used his finger to carve the words on the stone tablet. Spear God's Tomb. After burying Chang Ming, Lu Chen inserted the silver gallbladder into the side of the tomb and bowed a few times to Chang Ming's tomb. Senior Chang Ming, please forgive me for offending you. Please rest in peace. Lone Kuang is leaving. When Lu Chen turned around, he suddenly noticed a flash of light behind him. He turned around in surprise and discovered that the silver gallbladder had once again lit up with a silver light. Lu Chen was a little surprised. After thinking for a while, he raised his hand. The silver gallbladder actually pulled itself out of the soil and came to Lu Chen's hand. Lu Chen thought for a moment and finally understood. The meaning of the silver gallbladder was that it hoped that Lu Chen could bury its master, and Senior Chang Ming also hoped that he could take the silver gallbladder away. Thank you, Senior. Lu Chen bowed to Chang Ming's tomb again. Silver gallbladder, let's go. Not long after, Lu Chen arrived at the second district. At this time, a group of outer court disciples were surrounding and killing a gnawing beast. This beast specialized in eating corpses and was good at burrowing into the ground. This group of people were also very depressed. The group was focused on hunting demons, but in the end, a guy stood there and watched them fight. He did not snatch the kill, nor did he speak. He just watched. This feeling made people quite fearful. and he seemed to have come out from the depths of the immortal corpse tomb. They had no choice but to be wary of this guy. Perhaps because they were distracted, when they could have surrounded and killed the gnawing beast, that guy suddenly burrowed into the ground and actually ran away. But before they could react, the ground under the feet of a female disciple who came out to train with her senior brothers and sisters suddenly collapsed. Immediately after, a terrifying giant beast shot out from there. The gnawing beast actually turned around and attacked. It stood in front of the female disciple, its chest opened, and in the midst of the bloody flesh, a figure shot out. It's the puppet of the gnawing beast. Junior sister, be careful. The junior sister was also shocked. Not only did the gnawing beast appear suddenly, the scene in front of her was even more bloody and terrifying. There was actually a human corpse in its body, and it was actually its puppet. In this moment of shock, her reaction was half a beat slower. The corpse's hands tightly locked the female disciple and pulled her towards its chest. Not good, junior sister. Damn it, quickly stop this evildoer. However, for safety, these newcomers were originally far away. At this time, the senior brothers and sisters were too late to save them. The female disciple struggled with all her might. Seeing that she was about to be pulled into the body of the gnawing beast, she suddenly saw a red figure flash by. Chapter 996. The red shadow arrived first, instantly overtaking the junior sister from the outer court. Void shattering. With a roar, Lu Chen's right fist landed on the nibbling beast's open chest. With its chest open, the nibbling beast had given up on defense. Now that someone had suddenly appeared and punched its internal organs, the damage was not high enough to cause serious damage. Unfortunately, even though Lu Chen had only activated the symbiosis of gods and demons, the damage from this punch was not low. With a boom, the nibbling beast's internal organs, including its mucous membranes, were directly shattered, and its huge body flew out. Lu Chen took advantage of the situation and flicked his spear, cutting off the puppet's arm. His figure quickly moved, and the junior sister firmly held onto it by the waist. His entire movement was very smooth, extremely elegant. Lu Chen's punch was only a casual one. Although it heavily injured the nibbling beast's internal organs, it did not kill it. However, just as the nibbling beast got up, it was already surrounded by the academy's disciples. Only death awaited it. The girl laid in Lu Chen's arms, looking at the peerless beauty in front of her. She was suddenly infatuated. Lu Chen saw that someone was restraining the nibbling beast, so he helped the girl up. "I'm sorry for offending you. Miss, are you all right?" The girl's face instantly turned red, and she lowered her head. I'm fine. Thank you for saving me." "Miss, what time is it now?" Lu Chen asked. The girl looked up in surprise. "Previously, I was in the immortal corpse mound. I don't know what time it is today," Lu Chen said. He actually just wanted to find someone to ask about the time. Seeing that this group of people was about to kill the nibbling beast, he waited on the side. Who knew that he would suddenly encounter an unforeseen event? "You were in the immortal corpse mound." The girl's eyes revealed a trace of fear. How long did this guy stay in the immortal corpse mound? Was he a human or a ghost? However, he was her savior, and it seemed like he had no intention of attacking her, so she still replied, "Today is the year 2020 of the Origin Qiyuan calendar, November 30th. Lu Chen calculated. He had stayed in the emptiness of gods and demons for more than 3 days. If he counted the 4 days he spent on the road, he had already left the Divine Magic Academy for almost 8 days. The Soul Martial Hall should have opened long ago. "Oh no," Lu Chen said anxiously. "Young master, is there something urgent?" the young lady asked tentatively. Lu Chen glanced at the girl. "Miss, do you know if Zhongxinge is holding a Soul Martial Hall test in the next few days?" "Soul Martial Hall?" "Yes, the Demonic Academy's Soul Martial Hall is being tested today. It's the same day that the rankings of the other academies are updated. I heard from the instructor that he wanted to watch the Demonic Academy's Dean challenge the Soul Martial Hall." Ah! When Lu Chen heard this, he became even more anxious. Their academy's Seoul Martial Hall was opening today. Miss, can you do me a favor? The girl thought for a moment. From the looks of it, this man didn't seem like a strange demon from the immortal corpse mound. Young master saved my life. If Qing you can help, of course I'm willing. Can you bring me to Zhongxingu? The girl was stunned. She was a new disciple, so she obviously didn't have the qualifications to go to Zhongxingu at this moment. Not far away, the other disciples had already dealt with the gnawing beast. A few of the older disciples walked over and cupped their fists towards Lu Chen. Friend, thank you for your help just now. Otherwise, Qing you would have been in danger. This evil creature actually dared to launch a sneak attack. I was really careless. Thank goodness you acted in time. Otherwise, if it burrowed into the ground again, it would have been really hard for us to catch it. Qing Yu saw Lu Chen's anxious face and immediately said to the elder, Master, he wants to go to Zhongxingu for an urgent matter. He wants to ask for our help. What do you think? The elder looked at Lu Chen strangely. Little brother, you want to go to Zhongxingu? Ordinary people don't have the qualifications to go to that place. I wonder why you want to go to Zhongxingu? At this moment, Lu Chen didn't know where Zhongxingu was, so he had to tell the truth. To be honest, I'm from the Demonic Academy. I want to challenge the Seoul Martial Hall, but I don't know how to get to Zhongxingu. Little brother, I've heard people mention the Demonic Academy recently. However, only the dean can participate in the Seoul Martial Hall. You said you want to challenge the Seoul Martial Hall? The elder looked at Lu Chen strangely. Lu Chen nodded. That's right. I'm the dean of the Demonic Academy. The group of people were shocked. A white crane was flying towards the cloud immortal mountain. Sitting on the back of the crane were the outer disciples who were hunting in the immortal corpse mound. They were the disciples of Senki Gakuen. This academy wasn't very strong. It was just an ordinary academy. After knowing Lu Chen's identity, the instructor immediately brought Lu Chen to Zhongxingu. Senior Jiang Yuan, can you go faster? Lu Chen stood on the back of the red-crowned crane and looked ahead anxiously. Jiang Yuan looked at Lu Chen's back. He gritted his teeth and pressed one hand on the back of the crane. Little white, immortal trail crane shadow. This was probably some kind of skill that increased the speed of the mount. The white crane's speed suddenly increased. Master, immortal trail crane shadow consumes too much spirit chi. Your spirit core was already damaged. You already used a lot of it when you took us to hunt. A disciple said to his master. It's okay. Nameless saved Qing Yu's life. Compared to that, consuming a little bit of spirit chi is nothing. Lu Chen also heard this. He couldn't bear it, but he didn't say anything to stop them. He would remember this favor. However, he had to hurry to Zhongxingu. More than an hour later, the red-crowned crane landed on one of the many floating mountains in Zhongxingu. Jiang Yuan looked very tired. Senior Jiang Yuan, thank you. It's nothing. Nameless Dean, flying is prohibited here. You need to follow the heaven connecting lock to the second largest mountain, Baixian Mountain. From there, you need to use the heaven connecting lock to go to Yunxian Mountain. Jiang Yuan pointed at two mountains in the distance and pointed the way for Lu Chen. Nameless Dean, if you want to go, you need to activate it now. It will take at least 2 hours to go through the heaven connecting lock from here. However, at that moment, a rumbling sound came from Yunxian Mountain in the distance. Then, a huge building slowly rose from Yunxian Mountain. To be precise, it wasn't a building. It was a huge open platform. The surface of the platform was flat, but the base was very thick. From afar, it looked like a floating continent. It was the same for the buildings at the foot of Idler Cloud Mountain and the surrounding small mountains. Suddenly, a large number of white-clothed disciples rushed out. These were all people from Zhongxingu. Then, a screen appeared in the sky above Idler Cloud Mountain. On the screen, the scene on the platform was displayed. The Seoul Martial Hall is open. Who's going to challenge the Seoul Martial Hall? I think it's a newly established demonic academy. I heard that it's quite interesting. What's going on? Didn't they say that the dean of the demonic academy is a young man with some potential? Why is it an old man? That old man looks haggard. His footsteps are weak. It's obvious that he's disabled and seriously injured. Is he sure he wants to challenge the Seoul Martial Hall? He'll probably be like many other academies. He'll be done after 1 or 2 levels. A deep voice, like a voice from beyond the heavens, rang out above the platform. Demonic Academy has chosen a target score. Seoul Martial Hall Level 4. Countdown to challenge, 300 seconds. Lu Chen hurriedly looked at the platform and saw a slightly old figure slowly walking to the center of the platform. Lu Chen stared at the figure. Chapter 997. Lu Chen was very clear about Etian's situation. The injuries on his body were more serious than when he lost an arm. During the big hunting competition, even in such a dangerous situation, Etian did not make a move. It was not that he did not want to make a move, but he knew that it would be useless even if he did. But this time, he directly chose the 4th floor of the Seoul Martial Hall as his target. And the higher the floor of the target, the better the reward. But on the other hand, after choosing a target, the Seoul Martial Hall would only stop when it reached the specified floor. The students of our academy won't be interested in ordinary treasures. Lu Chen's ears rang with Etian's words. That's right, how could those geniuses be interested in ordinary treasures? But the problem is, Etian, don't you know your own situation? The countdown is only 300 seconds. Etian came to the platform and looked around. Today was the day of the academy's ranking update, so there were a lot of people. Countless people in charge of the academies were looking at him. And those Zhongxingu disciples, those who could come here to further their studies, were probably the most outstanding disciples of the various academies. Etian smiled slightly. In front of so many people, how could the demonic academy be looked down upon? If he was at his peak, he could at least pass 5 or 6 floors. But now, could he pass the 4th floor? If he gave it his all, there might be hope. Nameless, that stinky brat, how is he? There are only 5 minutes left until the Seoul Martial Hall starts. He definitely won't be able to make it back. But no matter what difficulties you encounter, I believe that you won't give up easily. I also believe that you will lead the Demonic Academy far, far away. Fine, since you are no longer in the Divine Demon Academy, I will help you protect the dignity of the Divine Demon Academy. Everyone said that like the dean, there would be like the students. But in reality, like the dean, there would also be like the instructors. Then, let's go crazy this time. Holding the tiger-headed blade, Etian's eyes were like torches as he waited for the countdown to end. What he didn't know was that on a small mountain in the distance, a young man's eyes were wide open, and his anger was almost overflowing from his eyes. Old E, you are really messing around. Don't you know how important you are to the gods and demons? Don't you know that you are my right-hand man? Lu Chen immediately turned his head and asked Jiang Yuan, what will happen if we go directly from here? Go straight through. Jiang Yuan was stunned. He never thought that Lu Chen would ask such a question. Well, I'm not very sure. I only heard that there will be divine punishment, but I'm not sure. After all, no one has done it before. No one had ever done this before? That was because Lu Chen didn't come. Lu Chen didn't care that the information he received was extremely inaccurate. He pulled out his silver spear and said, Silver Gut, I'm sorry. I just arrived and I need you to accompany me in this Zhongxingu. The instructors and students of Senki Gakuen were all stunned. What did that fellow say earlier that he wanted to challenge? Zhongxingu. When they looked at Lu Chen again, they saw that his hair was already white. He held a spear in his hand and threw it fiercely toward the distant arena. With a boom, the ground beneath Lu Chen's feet sank into a deep pit. It was obvious how hard he threw the spear. Silver Gut was like a bolt of silver lightning, rushing toward the arena. At the same time, Lu Chen's figure moved swiftly. He had already caught up with Silver Gut with the 7 stars chasing the moon. At this moment, even if he used the sanguine demon wings, he probably wouldn't be able to catch up. He had to be faster than this. Lu Chen caught up with Silver Gut in an instant. Using the tip of his foot, he leaped up and used another 7 stars chasing the moon to continue chasing after Silver Gut. The Senki Gakuen girl who was saved stared with her eyes wide open. She was petrified. What the hell is this? What is that fellow doing? He wants to force his way into the Zhongxingu area. He's going just like that? That's a little too crazy. Jiang Yuan was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a long time. Lunatic, he's really a lunatic. I've never seen such a crazy person. Many Zhongxingu disciples around also saw Lu Chen's figure. Their eyes were wide open, and their faces were full of disbelief. That fellow wants to go straight to Yunxian Mountain from here. Even if he wants to die, that's not the way to do it. Who is that fellow? He's so agile. The heavenly punishment is coming soon. This is the first time I've had the chance to see the heavenly punishment of the immortals. Indeed, as soon as he finished speaking, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the area between the mountains of Yunxian Mountain. The sky-connecting lock that connected the various Yunxian mountains began to shake violently. The huge chain was like a giant dragon, becoming restless. Countless people on Yunxian Mountain were shocked by the sudden change in the periphery. They looked around in confusion. What's going on? Is the heavenly punishment of the immortals activated? It can't be. How could this array be activated? Could it be that someone is flying in the Zhongxingu area? Who would be so stupid? Quick, look over there. Everyone hurriedly looked towards the southwest, where the lightning was the most concentrated. There, a silver light was shooting towards them. From time to time, a red shadow appeared and chased after the silver light. What's that? Someone is flying with a flying Dharma treasure? No, that's not a flying Dharma treasure. He's using that weapon to land. He's relying on his own body to move over here. This is crazy. The few people in charge of Zhongxingu narrowed their eyes slightly. Someone actually broke into Zhongxingu. That's unheard of. Who is that fellow? Do you know him? Sengoku, that person looks familiar. He seems to be. That's not right. How did he change his appearance? The person who spoke was Lord Yi. However, when he narrowed his eyes and looked at that figure again and again, he was a little uncertain. Lord Yi, who is he? Sengoku, this person looks a little like the director of the demonic academy. Nameless, but he doesn't seem to have a left arm. That's why I'm not sure. Nameless? So he's here for the Soul Martial Hall. However, he's so reckless. I'm afraid he doesn't know how powerful the divine punishment is. Itian also looked into the distance curiously. When he saw the red figure, his entire body trembled. Lord Yi wasn't sure who that was, but Itian was 100% sure that that person was Nameless. Only Nameless would be so crazy. It seemed that Nameless saw the countdown and rushed over without a care. Nameless, you found the emptiness of gods and demons. That's great. But you actually barged into the Zhongxingu. Lu, Xiaomin, and Rhubarb also saw Lu Chen. Lu Yi and Xiaomin were so excited that their eyes were brimming with tears. That's right. That person was definitely their boss. Although they didn't know what the silver light was, and didn't know how their boss's left arm was reattached, from the way this person did things, other than their boss, no one else would be so crazy. Boss is here. He's here for Eton. Lu Yi said with tears in her eyes. It's always like this. As long as it's someone that our boss cares about, he'll do whatever it takes. Xiaomin also said, if God or Buddha blocks him, he'll kill Buddha. No one can stop him. Chapter 998. The deity's heavenly punishment array had been fully activated. Countless bolts of lightning and thunder roared. The bottom of the various deities' islands suddenly cracked, and heaven-connecting chains broke free. Hundreds of heaven-connecting chains were covered in lightning, crisscrossing. These chains shuttled back and forth in the air, crisscrossing and connecting with each other. Lord Yi couldn't help but take a step forward. The first array of the deity's heavenly punishment array, Heaven-Locking Demon. How many years has it been since this array was activated? Nameless, that kid is crazy. Hundreds of thick chains suddenly tightened, and each of them rolled like a python, shrinking in range. Just the thickness of these layers of chains was over 1,000 meters. The heaven-locking demon instantly blocked Lu Chen's path. Lu Chen had no choice but to grab the silver gallbladder and rely on his wings to float in the middle of the chain array. Trespassing into the Zhongxiangu is a crime punishable by death. A grand voice resounded through the mountains of the Zhongxiangu. In the next second, hundreds of heaven-connecting chains intertwined, converging into 4 incomparably huge chains, like 4 whips, fiercely lashing out. The second array of the deity's heavenly punishment array, Deity Beating Whip. Heaven and earth rumbled, the mountains shook, and even the air vibrated. If this whip were to land, his soul would probably scatter. Nameless, admit your mistake. Etian rushed to the edge of the arena and shouted at Lu Chen. However, the grand voice from before sounded again. Solipsistic, you came for the Demonic Academy's Soul Martial Hall. Unfortunately, the candidates for the Soul Martial Hall have already been selected. Even if you come, you can't change anything. However, if you can really pass the deity's heavenly punishment array before the test begins, I can make an exception and allow you to replace Etian and represent the Demonic Academy to challenge the Soul Martial Hall. If I'm not wrong, even if Etian makes it to the 4th level of the Soul Martial Hall, I'm afraid he will have to pay a heavy price. Everyone was shocked. Could the person who spoke be the Lord of the Pantheon? But who was this solipsistic he mentioned? Was that John Doe's real name? After all, there was only one person in the array. Nameless, don't worry about me. Since I chose the 4th floor of the Soul Martial Hall, I've already made up my mind. Etian roared. Lu Chen's nostrils flared. Etian was no longer just his mentor. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been able to obtain the emptiness of gods and demons. There was also the pure Yang 8 trigrams mirror. If not for Etian, he would have already died under the dark spear. He had no choice but to repay this great kindness. Old E, you've been searching for it your entire life. Now let it fight for you. Master of Zhongxiangu, I, solipsistic, shall challenge your celestial punishment formation. As he spoke, the god-beating whip had already lashed out at Lu Chen from all directions. Lu Chen's eyes widened as he said angrily, Silver Gut, fight with me. The Silver Gut spear flashed with a silver light, just like when it was in the hands of Dark Spear. Possession of the god of war. Demon transformation. Soul and body as one. Place of death. Dragon blood boiling. 3 lives of reincarnation. Although Lu Chen didn't have a specialized spear technique, the Silver Gut obviously had its own skills. It was the spear technique used by Dark Spear. In the distance, looking at the white-haired man standing between heaven and earth, the female disciples of Senki Gakuen were already overwhelmed with emotions. A real man should be so indomitable. Daring to fight with the immortals, daring to fight with the heavens, he's really so handsome. Jiang Yuan said faintly, just this courage alone, if this person doesn't die, he can shake the heavens and earth. Lu Chen held the spear suspended between heaven and earth. With a twist of his fingers, the body of the spear started to roll and gradually emitted black mist. When Dark Spear used it, the body of the spear emitted green flames. But in the hands of Lu Chen's original spiritual energy was the primal chaos spiritual energy, which didn't have the characteristics of the fire element. In the end, it changed into a different appearance. The 4 god-beating whips shook the heavens and earth, and had already attacked. Emptiness of gods and demons, void attack. Lu Chen roared as his left arm swelled up, pushing away the wild blood sword god. Lu Chen's original ferocious face. His arm. What is that? Emptiness of gods and demons. Even many of the Dean-level experts might not know about the emptiness of gods and demons. Is that his original body? Or is it a transformation-type skill? But how can a transformation skill only change one arm? Etian was dumbfounded. That was what he had been searching for his entire life. Emptiness of gods and demons. Nameless had indeed obtained it. At this moment, he felt a sense of loss, but also a sense of relief. Nameless, I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. Zhongxiangu and the other Sengoku could not help but frown and squint their eyes. Emptiness of gods and demons arm. That guy actually obtained the emptiness of gods and demons arm. How is that possible? Why did the emptiness of gods and demons' arm recognize him as its master? This guy. The 4 god-beating whips carried the power to destroy the heavens and earth as Lu Chen held the spear in his left hand and roared. Celestial devil star physique. Bedevilment. Lu Chen's eyes were red. He had already entered the bedevilment state. Whoever blocks me today, kill. Way of the spear, spear like shooting stars. Way of the spear, Empyrean spear. After saying that, Lu Chen's figure transformed into a crimson ray of light and crashed into one of the god-beating whips. With a loud boom, the heavens and earth shook. The mountains were on the verge of collapsing. However, in the blink of an eye, the gigantic god-beating whip was forcibly changed direction and lashed towards the other 3 god-beating whips. At the same time, the red shadow was also sent flying and was instantly slapped towards the surrounding sky-ceiling demon matrix. Lord Yi squinted his eyes slightly. Nameless was sent flying in the direction of the Soul Martial Hall. Did that guy purposely use the force to close the distance? However, Lord Yi still had reason to believe that Nameless was not having a good time. Clashing head-on with the god-beating whips was not something that an ordinary person could withstand. If the damage of a god-beating whip was quantified by the damage of the 4th heaven, it would be at least tens of billions. In front of everyone, the saintly celestial punishment array was fully activated and the 4 god-beating whips attacked one after another. Who could withstand that? However, if that guy could forcefully change the direction of the god-beating whips, how powerful would his attack be? At the same time, Lu Chen had already retreated 1,000 meters and was about to crash into the sky-ceiling demon array of the sky-connecting lock. However, at this moment he suddenly turned around. 9 void steps. He could still move and use his movement technique. The sky-ceiling demon array started to spin rapidly and a large number of chains intertwined in front of him to form a complicated network of lightning. Lu Chen's eyes were wide open and he constantly changed his movement technique. His figure shuttled through the tiny gaps between the chains. Is this guy not injured? Did the god-beating whip not hurt him? Impossible. At the side, Mi Gong walked to Lord Ye's side. Even you and I would not be able to escape unscathed if we clashed head-on with the god-beating whip. However, looking at his movement technique, it seems like he is not affected at all. Yinan, how is this possible? Lord Yi shook his head. I don't know either. First, he used one of the god-beating whips to block the other 3. At the same time, he used the force to increase the distance between him and the god-beating whips. Then, he forcefully broke through the sky-ceiling demon array in one go. In such an adverse situation, he can still maintain such a clear mind. This solipsistic guy is really scary. Chapter 999. Heavenly Lightning Lock Demon. Between the chains, the electric charge was connected, making Lu Chen, who was already unable to find a way out, even more desperate. Previously, he was only able to fly here because of the god-beating whip's strength. But if he stopped without a relay point, his mobility would be greatly reduced. Lu Chen only had one thought in his mind. He had to force his way through. Behind him, the god-beating whip waved again. Lu Chen saw that his path was blocked, and he angrily shouted, "Void shattering!" Shattering the stars had a miraculous effect on arrays and domains. Moreover, this punch was used by the emptiness of gods and demons. It was supplied with chaotic spiritual energy, so it was not afraid of any elemental attacks. With a boom, the entire heavenly lock demon array shook, emitting the sound of metal colliding. However, the heavenly lock demon array did not break after one strike. Way of the spear, shooting star spear. Lu Chen thrust out his spear. Borrowing the residual force from the recoil, Lu Chen shot forward. The tip of the spear collided with the heavenly lock. For a moment, sparks flew everywhere, and the surrounding chains pressed down. Lu Chen's face was ferocious. Buddha body doppelganger. Void-shattering triple attack. Break for me. The 3 doppelgangers simultaneously used their left arms to shatter the void. In an instant, the sky shook. There's a gap. Lu Chen immediately discovered that after the spiritual energy in the array became unstable, a gap had appeared. However, this gap was rapidly healing. Lord Yi frowned. He actually managed to create a gap. Unfortunately, this array is called the Heavenly Lock Demon Array. How could it be so easy for you to break through? Mei Gong said with his hands behind his back. Nameless used the aftershock to create a gap in the Heavenly Lock Demon Array. This guy's attack is also very frightening. But now, his speed has decreased. Before the Heavenly Lock Demon Array repairs itself, he won't be able to escape. And the God-beating whip is the core of the Immortal Heaven Punishment Array. Although he managed to avoid the God-beating whip for the time being, it's still a step away. It's a pity. But at this moment, Lu Chen's main body suddenly stepped on one of the doppelgangers. 9 void steps. Damn, there's such a move? The fellow. Just a moment ago, Mi Gong still looked as though he was passing judgment on the world, but at this moment, his eyes were already widened in shock. That fellow has really utilized all of the conditions that he can exploit to the extreme. Lord Yi could not help but shake his head. Solipsistic? You are the strongest newcomer in Prosperous Source Continent in recent years. But you became the director of the Demonic Academy. At this moment, everyone became nervous. Could Nameless pass through the Immortal's Heavenly Punishment formation? A red light flashed, and in the next second, Lu Chen landed firmly on the Seoul Martial Hall's challenge arena. Nameless. Etienne hurried over. Lu Chen glanced at the countdown. There were only a dozen seconds left. If he hadn't forced his way in, it would have been too late. Lu Chen stood up with the help of Oldie. He looked at the crisscrossing heaven-connecting chains behind him and said loudly, I have already passed through the Heavenly Punishment formation. You have to fulfill your promise. This time, I will take on the challenge of the Seoul Martial Hall. Nameless. You have already... Etienne looked at Lu Chen anxiously. Lu Chen's current situation was not good. His breathing was rapid and his face was pale. Lu Chen looked at Etienne. I will not watch you take the risk. But, before Etienne could speak, Lu Chen interrupted him. Old E, don't say any more. This is my duty. The majestic voice came from the sky. Solipsistic, you have indeed obtained the emptiness of God's and demons' arm. Otherwise, you would not have been able to block the God-striking whip. Well, since I have already promised you, I will fulfill my promise. This time, you will take on the challenge of the Seoul Martial Hall. Moreover, I will give you 3 days to recover. After 3 days, you will take on the challenge again. Lu Chen was rather surprised. The person who spoke should be the pavilion master of Zhongxiangu. He did not expect him to give him time to recover. Lu Chen immediately cupped his fists. Thank you, Pavilion Master. You don't have to thank me. You fought for this opportunity yourself. Disciples of Zhongxiangu, listen up. Within 3 days, repair the heaven-connecting chains. As for the rest of you, if you want to stay in Zhongxiangu and watch Solipsistic take on the challenge, you can go to the various immortal islands temporarily. After 3 days, Solipsistic will take on the challenge again. After that, the voice no longer sounded. Zhongxiangu was really stingy. He left so many people here, but did not provide them with food or lodging. These deans could only cultivate and wait on the various immortal islands. Etienne sent a telepathic message to a sea of clouds. Not only did Nameless return, but the pavilion master of Zhongxiangu also gave them 3 more days to rest. Finally, one of the 2 boulders in his heart could be lifted. Long Xiang sized up Lu Chen's left arm. Dean, why did your left arm become smaller again? Yeah, Dean. I still think that the previous arm was more domineering. Why don't you change it again? Saiji said. Lu Chen was speechless. Sure enough, the TV shows were all lies. Changing once ruined his wild blood sword god. This fashion should be out of print. Anyway, he did not see anyone else wearing it along the way. Now, his left sleeve was gone. What's there to change? If you buy me new clothes, I'll change it for you to see. Lu Chen said unhappily. Right, where's my sword? Lu Chen looked at Lu Yi. Lu Yi hurriedly took out the limitless sword and handed it to Lu Chen. Boss, You have a new weapon? Do you want to give it to Limitless? Lu Chen shook his head. This spear was left behind by a senior. Moreover, I used it quite well just now. Keep it with you. The Limitless sword and the silver gallbladder stood beside Lu Chen at the same time. The two weapons actually trembled slightly at the same time. Lu Chen hurriedly grabbed the two weapons. Hey, what are you two doing? We're all on the same side, okay? These two guys were actually not convinced of each other's strength. It was reasonable to say that the Limitless divine demon was stronger. However, the silver gallbladder was called the silver gallbladder. It was courageous, but it wasn't Limitless divine demon. Etienne looked at the two weapons in Lu Chen's hands strangely. Nameless. These two weapons, don't tell me they both have spirits? Lu Chen thought for a moment and decided to hide this matter. He hurriedly changed the topic. It should be just the pressure from the weapons. Right. Old E, you just contacted Old Hai. How's Li Wei doing? They haven't come out yet. Lu Chen frowned. Once the matter at the Seoul Martial Hall was over, he had to hurry back to take a look. Old E, your pure yang bagua mirror. Lu Chen handed the bagua mirror to Etienne. Etienne smiled slightly. I'll give it to you. It will be more useful if it follows you. These old bones of mine can't fight or move. They'll only collect dust. Lu Chen smiled. Old E, you weren't like this just now. You actually set your sights on the 4th floor in one go. I think that as long as your injuries are healed, your path might not be over yet. This, Lu Chen smiled. Who knows, there might be some treasure in the Seoul Martial Hall that suits you. I wasn't confident before, but now. Lu Chen looked at his left arm and smiled. The meaning in his eyes was self-evident. You actually want me to rest? Then don't blame me for being impolite. Lu Chen revealed a sinister smile. This time, if I don't let Zhongxiangu suffer a huge loss, then I'll have come here for nothing. Chapter 1000. Over the past few days, the deans had been discussing Lu Chen more and more. His valiant left arm, his forceful charge into the Immortal's heavenly punishment array, and his ability to make the Zhongxiangu Pavilion Master make an exception and postpone the Seoul Martial Hall. All of these were enough to show that this young man was not simple. Because of this, although the ranking update had been completed, most people chose to stay and watch the competition. How many levels do you think that Solipsistic can pass? If you ask me, if he's in his best condition, I estimate that he can pass around 6 levels. Old deans like us don't have strong combat abilities, so we can only pass around 3 levels. Some of the young reserve deans of the big academies can probably pass 4 or 5 levels. Solipsistic strength is indeed astonishing, but that's explosive power, not endurance. I heard that his body is very weak, so he's not good at prolonged battles. Endurance is the most important part of the Seoul Martial Hall's test. That's right. 3 days of rest can only recover 10 minutes of soul-body unification. Plus, he has a chronic illness. I think it's difficult for him to pass 6 levels, maybe 5. After all, he's only a 1-star great cultivator. Without soul-body unification, his strength is limited. You have to know that the main body is the current stage's main combat power. I think he can last until the 5th level at most. All the big academies were discussing Lu Chen's future results. These old deans were also very insightful. They were not blinded by Lu Chen's stunning performance when he broke through the array. They analyzed Lu Chen's strengths and weaknesses in a comprehensive manner. Zhongxiangu Heavenly Immortal Palace. Lord Yi placed a set of information in front of an old man. Mabe Immortal King, this is the information we collected about Solipsistic. The old man lowered his eyes and looked at the stack of information. 3rd Firmament Military Rank, Militia. 4th Firmament Immortal Army Rank, Civilian. 5th Firmament Highest Rank, 1-star Great Cultivator. Are you sure this information is related to this Solipsistic? Mabe's eyes were filled with confusion. Lord Yi nodded. Sengoku. It's confirmed to be Solipsistic information. When I received the information today, I was a little surprised. It's hard to imagine that a guy with such strength would have such mediocre performance in the past. Sengoku, please read on. Mabe Immortal King flipped to the next page. In the third heavens, he would fight against the geniuses of the myriad races as a militia. From then on, he would intimidate the myriad races and redraw the territory of the third heavens, setting new rules for the third heavens. Fourth heaven, dispelling the curse of the origami, rescuing hundreds of thousands of people trapped in the wilderness tribe, killing the most troublesome heavenly domain bosses of the fourth heaven, Extreme E Nether Glow and Extreme Yang Illumination. After that, he faced the attacks of hundreds of thousands of people alone without taking any damage. Resetting the rules of the fourth heavens, abolishing the fourth heavens and damaging the corporeal body. Fifth heaven, complete the immortal level hidden mission, restart the fifth heaven. Reverse the destiny, kill the demonic beast sovereign, stop the demonic beast army from massacring the fifth heaven, and redraw the territory of the fifth heaven, creating the eighth kingdom. This guy. Wherever he goes, he'll wipe out everything. This time, Sengoku's expression finally changed. Although he had reached the sixth celestial layer and knew that there were many low-level heavenly domains that existed in different spaces, this did not negate Lone Tyrant's strength. At the very least, in his world, Lone Tyrant was an invincible existence. I've seen countless geniuses, but to be able to do this, it's really rare. Lord Yi nodded. This solipsistic, although arrogant, he does have the qualifications to be arrogant. Moreover, he doesn't seem to care about these levels. He doesn't pursue the heavenly marshal position, nor does he pursue the position of great heavenly general. I even suspect that if not for the fact that the cultivation level is linked to spiritual energy, he wouldn't even bother to raise his cultivation level. Mabe narrowed his eyes. This guy. It seems that ignoring the rules has always been his style. Lord Yi thought for a while and asked, Sengoku, what do you mean? Do you know why the Venerable Immortal delayed for 3 days to let Solipsistic challenge the Soul Martial Hall? This junior does not know the Venerable Immortal's intention. Lord Yi answered. Sengoku said indifferently. This person is currently willing to abide by the Zongshinji's rules, but it's not hard to guess what will happen in the future from his usual style. He's not the kind of person who is willing to live by the rules. He's destined to become the one who sets the rules. I remember that the Soul Martial Hall is actually the Twin Palace. I'm guessing that in tomorrow's Soul Martial Hall, the Venerable Immortal wants to activate the Twin Soul Martial Hall. Lord Ye's eyes widened. Twin Soul Martial Hall? The difficulty is at least twice as high. Could it be that the Venerable Immortal wants to? That's right, if I can't control it, then I can only strangle it. Sengoku's eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. After 3 days of rest, Lu Chen's physical strength had completely recovered. There were only 10 minutes left until the soul-body unification. Cloud Immortal Mountain once again raised a huge platform, but this time, the one who walked onto the stage was no longer Etion, but Lu Chen. Nameless, do your best. Dean at least 6 levels. Get more good stuff for those little brats. Lu Chen smiled at his companions and walked onto the stage. Senki Gakuen, Jiang Yuan, and the others found their respective deans and were fortunate enough to stay behind to watch the battle. Junior sister saw Lu Chen walk onto the stage and couldn't help but feel nervous. Junior sister, don't tell me you've fallen for Nameless? Look at how nervous you are. It's even more exaggerated than watching a senior brother compete. A male disciple said. None of your business. The girl pouted. It wasn't until the voice in the sky that the crowd quieted down. Solipsistic, are you ready? I'm ready. Lu Chen said indifferently. Do you have a target score? When a target score was set, when the corresponding level was reached, additional rewards would be given. Of course, after the target score was set, the difficulty of the Soul Martial Hall would also increase until the corresponding level was reached. There would be no stops in between. Lu Chen already knew this. Level 6, Lu Chen said directly. This caused a commotion outside the arena. He said he has to reach level 6 at least? This guy is too confident. I think level 6 is his limit. Who would set a target at the limit? It's too dangerous. I'm afraid he's underestimating the Soul Martial Hall. The voice sounded again. Alright, Demonic Academy's target is level 6 of the Soul Martial Hall. Entering countdown of 600 seconds. Why is the preparation time 600 seconds? Someone immediately questioned. Isn't it 300 seconds? Who prepares for 600 seconds? Strange. It wasn't until a huge countdown appeared above the platform that the crowd understood. Twin Soul Martial Hall, countdown to activation, 599 seconds? What? Twin Soul Martial Hall? This is the Twin Soul Martial Hall? Dean, what is the Twin Soul Martial Hall? Jiang Yuan asked his dean. Although Senki Gakuin wasn't famous, the dean wasn't young and knew a lot of things. The old dean said, the opponents in the Soul Martial Hall are formed by the powerful fighting souls left behind by past experts. As everyone knows, after the main body of the fighting soul dies, the fighting soul will gradually disappear. It's just that certain methods can be used to preserve these fighting souls. I know this, but the question is, what is the Twin Soul Martial Hall? The Twin Soul Martial Hall is formed by two fighting souls. One is the original fighting soul, and the other is another fighting soul formed after the fighting soul split. Split fighting souls are extremely rare. They don't have self-awareness, but they have combat thinking abilities that are beyond common sense. They will instinctively unleash their combat strength to the extreme. And during the process of splitting, they will form some incredible abilities. In short, at the same level, the chances of winning against a split fighting soul are almost zero. What? Why haven't we encountered the Twin Soul Martial Hall before? I don't know. I've only heard about it. I didn't expect Zhongxingu to open the Twin Soul Martial Hall today. That solipsistic is probably going to die in this Soul Martial Hall. Chapter 1001. Lu Chen also faintly felt that something was wrong. Etion's preparation time was 300 seconds last time. He remembered it clearly, but now it was 600 seconds for him? It was very likely that he and Etion didn't challenge the same Soul Martial Hall. Just from the preparation time for the Soul Martial Hall's opening, he already knew that there was a difference in difficulty. You didn't even inform me before and directly increased the difficulty? Lu Chen coldly snorted. It seemed that Zhongxingu wasn't really going to be polite to him. Very well, you want to play me to death. Lu Chen's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. Zhongxingu, let's wait and see. No matter what, Lu Chen already had no way out. Taking advantage of the 10 minutes of preparation time, Lu Chen closed his eyes and rested, waiting for the Soul Martial Hall to open. 10 minutes, and seconds passed. Everyone's eyes were focused on that figure. With a ding sound, the Soul Martial Hall's first hall trial began. In the four corners of the arena, 8 balls of spirit energy revolved and condensed, finally forming 8 figures. Why are there 8? Shouldn't there be 4 war souls in the first hall? The opponents are twice as many as the average Soul Martial Hall. Is there something wrong with the Soul Martial Hall? Even many deans didn't know of the existence of the Twin Soul Martial Hall. Seeing the double number of enemies, their eyes were filled with shock. Is this the Twin Soul Martial Hall? The legendary Twin Soul Martial Hall. Among the 8 war souls, 4 of them looked exactly the same as the other 4. However, the aura that they exuded was completely different. Lu Chen slightly narrowed his eyes. The opponent for the first hall trial was 1-star Emperor Xiao. Lu Chen coldly snorted. 8 1-star Emperor Xiao? The bell rang, and the 8 war souls pounced on Lu Chen at the same time. Heavenly Eye. Lu Chen activated his Heavenly Eye. Battle souls that look the same but have different elemental attributes. The intensity of the spiritual energy they emit is also different. Lu Chen quickly discovered the problem. Looks like Zhongxingu used some special method to extract another battle soul from an existing one. This kind of ability is indeed terrifying in a real battle. Lu Chen snorted when he saw the 8 war spirits charging towards him with weapons in their hands. 1-star Emperor Xiao, you're still too weak. Divine Demon Symbiosis. With a bang, Lu Chen's body erupted with a ferocious spiritual energy. Immediately, his long hair turned white and fluttered in the wind. "Oh my God, those ears are so cute." Junior sister held her hands in front of her chest, completely unaware of the predicament Lu Chen was in. She was only attracted by the pair of fox ears. The senior brother beside her shook his head helplessly. Indeed, a woman who had lost her mind was too scary. Speaking of which, he did not know how Nameless was going to deal with the current adversity. 8 1-star Emperor Xiao. Their levels are much higher than Nameless, and they have twin battle souls. Just the trial of the first hall alone is much more difficult than before. "Sigh, I'm afraid that Zhong Xinge is deliberately targeting Nameless," Jiang Yuan said. Amos hurriedly gestured for him to keep quiet. "Don't talk nonsense. This is Zhong Xinge." Jiang Yuan hurriedly lowered his head, but his eyes were still fixed on the battlefield. "Nameless, let's see if you can last until the 6th hall." On the battlefield, Lu Chen was surrounded by enemies. Murderous intent appeared on his face as he activated many enhancement effects. Currently, he only kept Soul Body as 1, Divine Demon Astral Body, Bedevilment, and Divine Demon Dual Heaven's Might. He activated all other enhancement skills. After activating them, Lu Chen was like a red-clothed, white-haired divine demon. Emptiness of gods and demons arm. His left arm quickly demonized. That human arm seemed to have turned into a huge and powerful demon arm in an instant. Emptiness of gods and demons arm. Void attack. Void break. Void attack was a type of attack state. It could only unleash its strongest power when combined with certain skills. The best choice was obviously the void break, which had extremely high attack power. The entire space shook violently. This punch landed in the void, but it was as if it had hit a solid object, causing a violent tremor. Everyone's eardrums were shaken by a dull sound, until their ears were ringing. Immediately after, the 8 1-star Emperor Xiao War Souls were instantly shattered before they could even get close to Lu Chen. The 8 1-star Emperor Xiao War Souls were instantly killed before they could even get close to Lu Chen. The whole place was terrifyingly quiet. This is too easy. I know he's strong, but the 8 1-star Emperor Xiao War Souls were much higher in level than him. In the end, they didn't even have a chance to get close to him? This is a bit too much. What the hell is that emptiness of gods and demons arm? In other words, 1-star Emperor Xiao War Souls didn't even have a chance to fight against the solipsistic War Souls. Etian took a deep breath. Not only did that guy obtain the emptiness of gods and demons arm, but he could also use the emptiness of gods and demons arm. So strong, this is too much. Lu Yi War Souls wasn't too shocked. After all, no one knew Lu Chen's true strength better than she did. Boss is still conserving his energy, Lu Yi War Souls said. If he could kill them instantly, he would definitely choose to do so. Long Xiang, who was standing at the side, had a look of fear on his face. I understand the logic, but the problem is that this method of instant killing is a little terrifying. What, twin fighting souls? You won't even get a chance to get close to me. What's the use of that? A Zhong Xinge disciple hovered in the air. He was also stunned for a while. It took him a while to remember that he needed to report his results. He hurriedly said, "The first trial has ended. Time taken, 0.7 seconds. 0.7 seconds? He suddenly realized that this result seemed a little fake. After checking it again, he realized that it was this result. Below the stage, a group of people had gone crazy. Are you kidding me? 0.7 seconds? Wouldn't it end as soon as it started? This is the fastest time in history, right? It's just that the Seoul Martial Hall doesn't have a time ranking. Otherwise, how could this result be surpassed? Is that solipsistic really here to challenge the Seoul Martial Hall? Why do I feel like he's here to cause trouble? The disciple announced loudly, "The second hall will be opened in 3 seconds. Wow, the preparation time is longer than the time taken to pass the first floor. This is simply unheard of. The Demonic Academy. It seems like we need to interact more with them in the future. Since the dean is already like this, the students there shouldn't be weak." Below the stage, there was an uproar. Only Luchin remained unmoved. He stood majestically in the middle of the stage with his eyes slightly closed. The 3 seconds of rest had to be utilized to the maximum. In the second hall, there were 16 2-star Theo the Great. Emptiness of Gods and Demons arm. Void attack. Void break. The twin fighting souls that were blown apart didn't have a chance to perform. 16 wisps of spiritual energy dissipated into the air. 16 2-star Theo the Great's fighting souls were blown apart by Lu Chen's punch. I can't watch this anymore. Really? One of the deans said. When I challenged the second hall, 8 fighting souls fought fiercely. How could they be defeated in a second by his punch? No, he hasn't even moved a single step. The fighting souls didn't even have a chance to get close to him. What's the point of fighting? Shattering the spiritual core with a single punch. Is this even giving others a chance? I feel that this doesn't show a person's true fighting skills. It's a form of cheating. This isn't fair. Chapter 1002. The announcing disciple's voice was trembling. The second hall has ended. Time used 0. 5 seconds. It was even shorter than the first hall by 0. 2 seconds. It seemed like the solipsistic had gotten used to the rhythm and was more decisive in his attacks. 1-star Emperor Xiao and 2-star Theo the Great didn't even have a chance to get close. They were killed by that guy with a single punch. Dean, didn't you say that the twin fighting souls were very strong? I did say that, but that guy didn't give the fighting souls a chance to attack. What can I do? The dean explained anxiously. Among the crowd, Lord Yi and Mi Gong had not spoken for a few seconds. Only 4 to 5 seconds had passed since the Soul Martial Hall had opened. The emptiness of Gods and Demons arm is so overbearing? No, it's not the emptiness of Gods and Demons arm's problem. It's the nameless attack. Lord Yi shook his head and said, the emptiness of Gods and Demons arm's strength depends on the user's ability. The solipsistic was able to fight evenly with the God-beating whip, so you can imagine how strong his attacks are. Combined with the emptiness of Gods and Demons arm's attacks, it's hard to imagine. We still underestimated his battle strength. What's stamina consumption? Did you see him move? 1 punch, 1 hall. What's stamina consumption? The third hall. This is the third hall. This hall is filled with 3-star Theo the Great. There are a total of 16 fighting souls. No, the twin hall has 32 fighting souls. This hall won't be easy to pass. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the Soul Martial Hall's training ground. Emptiness of Gods and Demons arm. Void attack. Void break. 1 punch, and 31 fighting souls were destroyed. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. As expected, this hall was going to be a little difficult. 1 fighting soul was still alive after his punch. That fighting soul was stunned. 32 fighting souls had appeared at the same time, so why was he the only one left? What happened to the ganging up on him? Way of the Spear, Shooting Star Spear. Lu Chen appeared in front of the war spirit in a flash. Star shattering. The war soul reacted quickly and was about to dodge. You want to run? I am all ears. Lu Chen seemed to have predicted this. At the same time, his right hand made a grabbing motion. The war soul was caught off guard and was directly controlled by Lu Chen. At this moment, the shattered star had been connected. Although this war soul did not die under the shattered void because of its hard shell, it did not have much HP left. It was easily killed by Lu Chen's spear. Third hall completed in 1.6 seconds. Fuck, it's finally over 1 second. 1 punch to kill 31 people. Does this guy still have points? He took less than 3 seconds to clear all 3 levels. Sigh, look at the solipsistic students, and look at the students of our academy. The difference is like heaven and earth. If I had discovered him earlier, I would have dragged him to our academy even if I had to die. Don't think about it, he is now the dean. His status is on the same level as us. Don't worry, the key is not the first few levels. The main thing is his performance later. Don't forget that he has internal injuries. Whether he can hold on or not is the key. Etienne shook his head and sighed. He was really old. He was prepared to fight to the death, but he only dared to aim for the 4th level. However, with Nameless' current strength, passing the 4th level would be like child's play. This was the Twin Soul Martial Hall with double War Souls. As long as Nameless was given some time, it was inevitable that he would surpass his peak. We are about to reach the 4th hall. Nameless has to be careful, Etienne said worriedly. His physical strength was his weakness. It was okay to kill in an instant at the beginning, but if he could not kill in an instant at the end, his weakness would be exposed. The target of the 6th level. As the level of the War Souls increases, their methods will become more complicated. It will be difficult to kill them in an instant. Especially from the 5th hall onwards, the strength of the War Souls will be the strongest among those of the same level. The difficulty of the battle will increase sharply, so I only dare to aim for the 4th hall. Hearing Etienne's analysis, Little Green and Xiaomin could not help but feel nervous. It seemed that it was still too early to say whether they would be able to pass the level successfully. The opening of the 4th hall, 64 War Souls, all of which were at the level of the 4-star Theo the Great, 32 of which were split War Souls. Emptiness of Gods and Demons Arm. Void Attack. Void Break. Lu Chen repeated the same trick. However, the actual combat strength of this batch of War Souls was far beyond the previous batch of War Souls. When Lu Chen made his move, the War Souls reacted in time. There were all kinds of shields, astral bodies, defense enhancement skills, and movement skills. The 64 War Souls all showed their remarkable abilities. Finally, the situation of a one-hit kill did not happen. Finally, he won't be able to pass the level easily this time. I feel much better. Of course, Lu Chen's punch was not all for naught. Apart from a few War Souls that completely avoided Lu Chen's attack, most of the War Souls were injured to varying degrees. However, these injuries could not stop the War Souls from besieging Lu Chen. Dozens of War Souls, including long-range and close-range War Souls and puppet battle pets, pounced on Lu Chen from all directions. Oh no, even if he wins this round, Nameless will consume a lot of energy. It will be troublesome for him in the next 5 or 6 levels. Saiji exclaimed. However, Lu Chen did not move. In the face of such a large number of attacks, he gently raised his left arm and said calmly, "Soul and body as one." Void Guard. He has activated the soul and body as one. He has activated the soul and body as one so early? He only has 10 minutes to activate the soul and body as one. Can he make it to the 6th level? Etienne's brows were tightly knitted. He finally understood Lu Chen's intention. Compared to the duration of the soul and body as one, Nameless is more concerned about the consumption of his energy. He is prone to fatigue, so he cannot fight for a long time. Even if Nameless has 100 hours to activate the soul and body as one, it will be useless if he does not have enough energy to last until then. Saiji looked pleased. If that is the case, the Dean will still be limited by the consumption of his energy. On the battlefield, a cloud of black mist surrounded Lu Chen. A large number of skills landed on the black mist, sending out waves of spiritual energy. The 4-star Theo the Great was not to be underestimated, not to mention when so many people were attacking him at the same time. However, Void Guard's defense was impregnable. No matter how these skills attacked, no one could break through Lu Chen's defense. It was equivalent to a 50 billion defense shield. As long as one attack could not break it, this shield would remain. Therefore, no matter how many attacks there were, as long as they did not exceed 50 billion, they would not be a threat to Lu Chen. Just as the fighting souls were attacking the cloud of black mist, a roar erupted from the black mist. Tiger descends the mountain. Suppressive fire. From the black mist, a large number of spiritual energy cannonballs were fired at the fighting souls. However, these fighting souls reacted very quickly. Even if the spiritual energy cannonballs had the ability to jump through space, if there were no other skills to restrict them, it would be difficult for the cannonballs to hit these super powerhouses at the level of Theo the Great. These fighting souls are not to be trifled with. It is difficult to hit them directly with spiritual energy cannonballs. The 4-star Theo the Great strength is enough to dodge these spiritual energy cannonballs. Solipsistic is overconfident this time. At this moment, Lu Chen instantly withdrew his Void Guard defense and punched out. Void Attack. Void Break. With the combination of soul and body, the power of this punch increased exponentially. The other fighting souls were dodging the spiritual energy cannonballs, but they did not expect that it was just Lu Chen's feint. The real move had only just arrived. With a loud bang, the entire battlefield became quiet. Looking at the fighting souls dissipating in the form of spiritual energy, Lu Chen looked at the clouds and snorted. Could your Zhongxianji's soul martial hall be at this level? Countless deans who were watching the battle could not help but widen their eyes. Solipsistic actually provoked the pavilion master of Zhongxiange. Chapter 1003. Nameless. A few Sengoku disciples from Zhongxiange could not hold themselves back. This person is really arrogant to the extreme. Not only did he barge into our celestial heavenly punishment array, he even dared to speak so arrogantly to the celestial sovereign. The disciples of Zhongxiange on the various celestial islands were even more agitated. Who does he think he is? How dare he look down on our Zhongxiange? Zhongxiange has persevered for thousands of years. He's just a lower house dean, yet he dares to speak to the celestial sovereign like that. He really doesn't know his place. The voice from above the clouds suddenly rang out. Zhongxianji's pavilion master actually responded to Lu Chen. Solipsistic, you've only passed the 4th level. Don't forget, your goal is the 6th level. It won't be too late to talk about it after you've passed the 6th level. Lu Chen smiled slightly. Then why aren't you hurrying up? My hands are getting cold as I fight. The group of Zhongxiange disciples were so angry that they almost vomited blood. The celestial sovereign had appeared, yet this guy did not restrain himself at all. Instead, he became even more arrogant. Solipsistic, don't forget that your demonic academy is still under the management of Zhongxiange. You think you can be so arrogant after passing the 4th level of the Soul Martial Hall? I'm not afraid to tell you that any Zhongxiange disciple can easily pass the 4th level of the Soul Martial Hall. Lu Chen looked at the Zhongxiange disciples who were yelling at him and raised his eyebrows slightly. Are you talking about the easy difficulty of the Soul Martial Hall? The group of disciples immediately shut up. It was not that they could not pass the Twin Soul Martial Hall. Solipsistic's meaning was clearly that Zhongxiange had adjusted the difficulty of the Twin Soul Martial Hall without informing him. From this point alone, the truth was right in front of their eyes. It was Zhongxiange who had ulterior motives. In fact, if it weren't for Zhongxianji's despicable methods, Lu Chen might still have a good impression of Zhongxiange. But now, it was proven that Zhongxiange wasn't really friendly to him. He even had hidden killing intent. Lu Chen even thought that the secret passage in the demonic academy might really be related to Zhongxiange. They were not as honorable as they appeared to be. Soon, the 5th floor of the Soul Martial Hall opened. The 5th palace, the Divine General Palace, opens. Divine General Palace? Lu Chen coldly snorted. It seemed that starting from the 5th palace, it had actually started to become famous. I hope I won't be so bored. The 5-star Theo the Great and the split twin soul warriors made a total of 128 warrior souls. These 128 warrior souls gave off a different feeling than the previous warrior souls. Each of them had a calm gaze and a calm demeanor. With one look, one could tell that these warrior souls were once people who had experienced hundreds of battles. Zhongxiange will definitely not let Solipsistic pass the 6th floor of the Soul Martial Hall so easily. Looks like the real battle has begun. However, this time, Lu Chen's battle plan had already changed. Above Theo the Great, every floor had a huge increase in strength. The difference between 1-star Emperor Xiao and 1-star Emperor Xiao could be hundreds of thousands of spiritual energy. The most important thing was that during the long period of time when they increased their cultivation level, they experienced more battles and were stronger. The accumulated experience, equipment, and attributes were all too different. In the academy, under the situation of having the same combat ability, A 1-star difference was enough to create a crushing advantage. Previously, many warrior souls of the 4-star Theo the Great had already blocked Lu Chen's breaking the void. This time, it would be very difficult to rely on breaking the void to instantly kill Lu Chen. Kill! The warrior soul's killing intent surged. Iron-blooded berserker realm. Golden armor realm. Battle pet blood-soaked realm. More than 105-star warrior souls attacked at the same time. Countless sword auras, talismans, and magic balls were launched. The melee fighters and various divine beast battle pets, spirits, and high-level puppets flashed to Lu Chen's side in an instant. Lu Chen snorted coldly. Demon clone. After Lu Chen came to the 6th floor, he had been in a broken arm state and had not used most of his skills. After the arm was reattached, although he was still tired, all of Lu Chen's skills had been unsealed. Clones after clones. Lu Chen suddenly had many Lu Chen around him. The only regret was that the clones did not inherit the emptiness of God's and Demons' arm. The clones quickly rushed to the enemy army, while Lu Chen's original body stretched out both hands and slowly injected spiritual energy into the space in front of him. It's a testing space. Draco widened his eyes in horror. The purpose of those clones was to buy time for the original body. What testing space? That's an ideal type skill. Do you really think it's just for testing? Etienne said. His eyes were also full of shock. That guy, is he finally going to use this skill in a real battle? Nameless ideal type skills required spiritual energy to be used for the first time. After that, they could form a system of their own. Judging from the current situation, it was indeed the most suitable skill. However, to use this skill, it required a certain amount of time to prepare. At this moment, he was facing 5-star Theo the Great level super experts. The battle between experts was a matter of seconds. Would those nameless clones be able to hold on for a few seconds? Originally, everyone thought that the solipsistic clones were only trying to buy time for the original body. However, they soon discovered the horror of those clones. Every clone inherited the effects of combo, critical hit, lifesteal, and so on. They all had extremely strong combat power. What are the attributes of the solipsistic war soul? How are his clones so strong? 5 combo? How is this possible? Every attack is a 5 combo. A clone can defeat a 5-star Theo the Great war soul in one move. This can't be true. His clones are indeed strong. However, I don't think they can stop those 5-star Theo the Great war souls. Lu Yi and Xiaomin looked at each other. The people around them were making a fuss over nothing. If it weren't for Lu Chen's many mythical beast battle pets that had merged into the little beast god, and they didn't know where the little beast god was now, the clones' attacks would have caused more abnormal statuses. However, although Lu Chen's clones were difficult to deal with, they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. They couldn't completely block the opponent's attacks. Void Blade. A war soul took the opportunity to attack Lu Chen's original body. Lu Chen didn't move. This made the opponent think that this move would definitely hit. In fact, the Void Blade did hit Lu Chen, but just when he thought he was about to succeed, Lu Chen's body was suddenly wrapped in a cloud of black fog. He took the hit directly. In the next second, Lu Chen shouted, "I didn't want to use this move, but you have really angered me. Using such a despicable method, are you trying to kill me? Well, I'll plant a space in Zhongxiange. Creation space. All of you come in." The scope of the creation space this time was far beyond the testing or training space. It directly covered the entire Seoul Martial Hall's arena. It was Lu Chen's first time using such a huge creation space. It consumed a lot of energy. No wonder he needed such a long time to accumulate power. The old headmaster of Senki Gakuen widened his eyes. It can't be. The testing space of the Demonic Academy, is it really a nameless realm skill? He can't be from the Fox clan, right? Otherwise, how could he have comprehended the realm skill at such a young age? Oh my god, even if it's the human king, not everyone has their own realm skill. He's a great cultivator, how could he have his own realm skill? I'm starting to understand why Zhongxiange suddenly wanted to kill him. This solipsistic, in time, even Zhongxian Gu won't be able to control him. If you don't know this kind of skill and don't know how to break open space, you're just a sitting duck. Below, the battle souls were fighting fiercely in the creation space. These battle souls were quite strong, and the number of sword shadows quickly increased by dozens of times. The powerful fighting soul that was usually feared by many experts had turned into an idiot at this moment. It could not understand why there were more and more sword shadows. The last time I reached the 6th level of the Soul Martial Hall, I tried my best but still couldn't pass it. In the end, these war souls are now being toyed around by solipsistic. This is cheating. Last time, he didn't cheat. This time, he finally cheated. How could he pass the Soul Martial Hall like this? I can't accept it. How could he get the treasure so easily? No, if he keeps fighting like this, I'm afraid the Soul Martial Hall will be broken through by solipsistic in one move. In the end, he's still flying in the sky and watching the show. This reminds me of the low-level heavenly regions. I feel like I've found a loophole in the system. The final result was without a doubt. A few minutes later, the 6th hall, Killing God Palace, passed. The people from the Temple of All Gods were about to collapse. The Soul Martial Hall that they were so proud of, someone was farming treasures here. What should we do? We can't let him continue like this. What can we do? There are so many people watching. Can we force him to stop? If this spreads out, where will our Zhongxian Gu put our face? He's clearly using the battle souls to not know any status skills. It's also because his creation space is too strange. If it were any other status skills, he wouldn't be able to farm the Soul Martial Hall here. Etion's face was full of shock. Their dean, in a fit of anger, was farming the Soul Martial Hall? He turned to look at Louis. Miss Lu, was your boss also this shameless in the past? Oh no, was he also this quick-witted? Lu Yi shook her head. Our boss usually doesn't bully people and rarely kills people, unless the other party angers him. There were a few times when boss killed the opponent, but this time he probably felt that he couldn't kill Zhongxianji's pavilion master, so he changed his method. Etion nodded. Nameless did say before that he didn't plan to use this move, Louis said. Actually, the creation space is one of boss' trump cards. He won't use it unless it's absolutely necessary. But Zhongxian angered him, so he didn't care so much. This time, I'm afraid Zhongxian Gu won't be able to get off the stage. This creation space has its own system, and the battle souls don't know how to crack it. If this goes on, even the Soul Martial Hall will be farmed by him. Lu Yi knew that Etion was worried that Zhongxian Gu would find trouble with Lu Chen or the Demonic Academy in the future. She thought for a while and said, Senior Yun, you don't have to worry about this. Our boss should have a plan. Now let's see how Zhongxian Gu handles it. Solipsistic flew in the air for a while. Without doing anything, he directly passed through the 6th floor of the Soul Martial Hall. At this time, he was floating beside the disciple who was reporting. Hey, we've reached the next floor. This? You still want to continue? Isn't your goal the 6th floor? Now that you've passed it, you can already get double the treasures. Lu Chen sneered, Brother, do you think I'm stupid? You saw it yourself. I'm chatting with you while I passed the 6th floor. Why wouldn't I continue? Even if you used your toes to think, you would know that the rewards on the 7th floor would definitely be better. Oh, the 8th floor would definitely be better. Hey, what's the highest floor of your Soul Martial Hall? The disciple's forehead was oozing with beads of sweat. This guy seemed to be getting greedier. He directly asked what the highest floor was. The highest one, the 9th floor. Only the 9th floor? Sigh, that's not enough. Forget it, the 9th floor is the 9th floor. I won't force you to build another floor. Lu Chen shook his head helplessly. I still have something to do back at the academy. You guys hurry up. Another few minutes passed, and the 7th floor of the Soul Martial Hall arrived late. This bunch of 7 stars Theo the Great were unlucky. Just as they condensed their bodies, they were attacked by the overwhelming sword shadows. At this time, it was no longer a matter of whether or not they wanted to attack the sword shadows. If they didn't attack the sword shadows would attack them. The disciple who was reporting the news glanced at Lu Qin. At this time, this guy had already put away his spear and the infinite demon god sword and was focused on watching the show. Astral form skill. That war soul is so strong. Lu Qin exclaimed, if I were to fight with him, it would be very difficult to deal with him alone. Strong? What was the use of being strong? When faced with attacks that only increased and did not decrease, no matter how strong the war soul was, it would still be exhausted. This cannon shot is not bad. It actually has an ice element attack. The strength of the split war souls seems to be much stronger than the original war soul. Lu Qin sighed. For this wave, if I were to face them head-on, I'm afraid my chances of winning are not high. The Zhongxiangu disciple beside him was already sweating profusely. What was the use of him saying so much? He was now standing with him to watch the battle. Those who did not know the situation would think that he was just a spectator. The stronger the war souls were, the more terrifying the creation space would become. If this continued, he would be able to easily break through the 9th floor. Chapter 1005. Due to the impact of the celestial heavenly punishment array, Cloud Immortal Mountain Spirit Source is currently fluctuating, the announcing disciple suddenly said to everyone in a clear voice. Everyone was at a loss when they heard this. The Soul Martial Hall's spirit source is malfunctioning. Currently, the Soul Martial Hall is temporarily suspended. When he said the last sentence, everyone suddenly realized what was going on. After all this time, they just wanted to temporarily suspend the Soul Martial Hall. I knew it. How could a place like Cloud Immortal Mountain cause fluctuations in its spirit source just because of a mountain protection battle? This excuse is really strong. They actually want to temporarily suspend the Soul Martial Hall. But then again, Cloud Immortal Mountain also wants to save face. If they continue to let the solipsistic spirit source continue, they will indeed be embarrassed. It wasn't that these spectators were smart. The main reason was that Zhongxiangu was really helpless against Lu Qin. They had no choice but to find such a perfunctory excuse to temporarily suspend the Soul Martial Hall. Yi Tian looked indignant. What are you doing? Playing tricks again? Can't the great Zhongxiangu be a little more open? In the air above the Soul Martial Hall, an old man in a white robe flew to Lu Chen's side. The announcing disciple hurriedly bowed. Mabe Immortal King. Mabe ignored him and turned to Lu Chen with a smile. Nameless Director, the Soul Martial Hall's spirit source is malfunctioning. How about Nameless Director come to Sengoku's hall to rest for a while? Lu Chen frowned slightly. I'm not particularly tired. Nameless Director, please don't worry. The spirit source in your space is self-sufficient. It will become more powerful if you leave it there for a while. We won't touch it without your permission. Besides, who knows, maybe we can come up with a more energy-efficient way to clear the stage in Sengoku's hall. The Mabe Immortal King kept winking at Lu Chen, making Lu Chen uncomfortable. Nameless Dean, let's go. Have some tea and take a rest. In any case, this Soul Martial Hall won't be able to recover anytime soon, Mabe said as he pulled Lu Chen away. Wait. Lu Chen said. My friend is coming too. Oh, no problem. Let's go down first. The Sengoku Palace was located halfway up Mount Yunxian. It was built against the mountain and faced the sea of clouds. It was magnificent. In reality, any building in Zhongxiangu was not a place that outsiders could easily enter. Even for the many deans, almost all of their matters were discussed and held in Juxian Pavilion. Other buildings were forbidden from entering, not to mention a place like Sengoku Hall. Not many of Zhongxianji's inner disciples were qualified to enter this place. Yi Tian, Long Xiang, and Saiji followed behind Lu Chen and Mabe. Looking at the high dome, they felt like farmers entering the city. Old E, to be honest, I have been in the sixth heaven for more than 200 years, but I have never entered Sengoku Hall. Long Xiang said. Look at the star C pattern on the roof. It's so real. Don't break anything. It is said that the vases placed randomly in Sengoku Hall are rare magical weapons that can't be bought with spirit stones. The foundation of Zongxiangu is not something that ordinary people can imagine. Following Mabe, they passed through the hall. Behind this majestic hall, there was actually a garden pavilion. The environment was beautiful, birds were singing, and flowers were fragrant. Lu Chen looked at the sea of clouds in the distance. While walking among the flowers, the spring water gurgled beside him, while admiring the beautiful scenery. This group of fellows from the Pavilion of Immortals really know how to enjoy themselves. When will they get one in the Divine Magic Academy? At the front of the pavilion, there were already extremely sage-like old men waiting there. When they saw Lu Chen and the others coming over, they stood up one after another. Mabe led Lu Chen and the others into the pavilion. Nameless. You don't know them yet. Let me introduce you. These three are our Zongxianji Sengoku. This is Sengoku Juchen. This is Sengoku of the Seven Ministers. This is Princess Hibiscus. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Mabe. Everyone, I don't need to introduce these people. They are the nameless dean of the Demonic Academy who just passed through the Heavenly Divine Punishment Array. These are the teachers of the Demonic Academy. The three Sengoku clasped their fists towards Lu Chen and the others. Nameless dean, everyone, please take a seat. Come, serve the tea. Several Zongxiangu female disciples served tea and placed it in front of Lu Chen and the others. Facing the four Sengoku, Itian and the others were a little reserved. However, Lu Chen was not affected at all. He picked up the teacup and looked at it. This tea isn't poisoned, right? After all, you Zongxiangu don't like to do things openly. Itian had just picked up his teacup and was about to taste Zongxianji's tea. He took a sip and was intoxicated. When he heard Lu Chen's words, he spat out the tea in his mouth. This guy really dared to say that. If it were any other time, these four Sengoku would have already crushed him to death. However, the four Sengoku had different expressions. They even had murderous intent in their eyes, but they had no choice but to suppress it. Mabe forced himself to laugh awkwardly. Ha ha, nameless, you really know how to joke. This tea is produced in the inner mountains of Yunxian Mountain. It's called Bodhi Drunk. It's brewed with rootless mountain spring. It's fragrant, and one sip will make you salivate. Normally, we wouldn't even bear to drink it ourselves. Lu Chen nodded. Is it that amazing? Then I'll try it too. It's really not bad. To be honest, this tea was indeed sweet and refreshing. The awkward atmosphere finally eased a little with Lu Chen's praise. Nameless, I heard that you broke through the Immortals' Heavenly Punishment Array. You're indeed a hero from a young age. Lu Chen raised his hand and stopped Mabe from continuing. Mabe, Immortal King, we're all sensible people. There's no need to talk about such unimportant things. I don't have as much time as you do. After I'm done here, I still have to return to the academy. What exactly do you want to talk to me about? Lu Chen put down his teacup and looked at the three Sengoku. Long Xiang and Saiji felt goosebumps all over their bodies. Was this how the dean talked to the Sengoku? Even if they were ordinary Zongxiangu disciples, when they went to the major academies, the academy leaders would treat them with great importance. However, here, not only were there Zongxiangu disciples making tea for them, but the dean's aura did not diminish in the slightest in front of the four great Sengoku. They did not know that Lu Chen was like this in the past. He was just a commoner, and he was not polite to the heavenly fate marshals and great heavenly generals. Even after reaching the sixth heaven, his temper still did not change. Sengoku? Lu Chen had long scoffed at this title in his heart. If he really became an immortal, why would he stay at the sixth heaven? It was most likely an honorific title, just like how people called Zongxiangu disciples immortal masters. It could only be said that Zongxiangu had been the boss for too long, and he had become arrogant. To Chang Ming, Itian, and a sea of clouds, Lu Chen would respectfully address them as seniors. To these irrelevant people, it was already good enough that Lu Chen could follow and call them Sengoku. Did they really expect him to bow and scrape? Obviously not. Mabe also stopped smiling. This Nameless was indeed difficult to deal with. Alright, Nameless is also a straightforward person. Then I'll be straightforward. As long as you give up on continuing to challenge the Soul Martial Hall, we will count your result as passing the 9th level of the Soul Martial Hall. Also, because it is a twin Soul Martial Hall, we will give you double the reward. Etion and the rest jaws almost dropped. Zhongxingu gave in? Directly based on the highest reward, and even double the reward, this was definitely unprecedented. However, this matter did not seem to be over. Lu Chen's lips curled up slightly, and he snorted coldly, saying, 4 times. Chapter 1006. 4 times. Nameless, don't go too far. Princess Hibiscus slammed the table and stood up, looking angrily at Lu Chen. You have to understand who you are negotiating with. Lu Chen looked indifferently at the furious Princess Hibiscus. Of course I know who I am negotiating with. Zhongxingu, as everyone knows, is rich. You really have guts. You know that your demonic academy will have to rely on us in the future. Lu Chen snorted, rely on you? Who told you that? Princess Hibiscus glared at Lu Chen. What a joke. Do you think you can jump out of the Xinyuan continent's academy system? Lu Chen smiled. Who knows what will happen in the future? Besides, you have to understand that I'm not the one negotiating with you. It's you who are looking for me. You want to negotiate with me, and I have to agree to whatever you say? Is there such a logic in this world? You are offending your superiors. Don't forget, your demonic academy was founded in the ruins of the Wunyan Academy because we gave you the opportunity. What? You want to turn your back on us after getting benefits? Even a dog knows how to repay kindness. Sengoku of the 7 ministers said angrily, don't think that no one can break your creation space. How dare a mere low-level concept act so rashly here? Lu Chen stood up and looked at the 4 Sengoku. His eyes were cold. It was time to settle the anger in his stomach. Offending my superiors? You forced me to do that. My demonic academy was originally developing peacefully. You said that you wanted to unseal my area according to the number of students enrolled, so I recruited disciples. You said that the opening of the 10 great halls had to be approved by you. We were preparing lessons, so you wanted us to come and challenge the Soul Martial Hall. We came and challenged the Soul Martial Hall. I want to ask, did our demonic academy violate your rules? And the result? I participated in the challenge of the Soul Martial Hall. You didn't inform me in advance and directly increased the difficulty of the challenge. Are you trying to kill me? If I didn't have the emptiness of gods and demons' arm in the creation space, I would probably have died in the 6th hall. This is the result of complying with your rules. Tell me, why should I continue to listen to you? You can break my creation space? Very well, then break it. In front of all the deans, let everyone see the means of your pavilion of immortals. Lu Chen's every word was true and overbearing. Hibiscus Immortal King was so angry that her face turned pale, yet she was unable to say anything for a long time. Lu Chen snorted. I challenged the Soul Martial Hall with my own strength, but you used despicable tricks to obstruct me again and again. Is this how Zhongxingu manages the academy? Facing 4 Sengoku, Lu Chen's aura was not weak at all. Instead, he made the 4 Sengoku speechless. All right, the tea is finished. Hurry up and restore the Soul Martial Hall. I don't want double rewards. I just want people to see the incompetence of the Soul Martial Hall. Lu Chen said and turned around. Hey, Nameless. Mabe finally couldn't hold it in and hurriedly pulled Nameless. Calm down. It's just tea. Why are you so angry? Lu Chen frowned and said, if we don't agree, half a sentence is too much. The tea is good, but unfortunately, I don't like the person who drinks it. The other 3 Sengoku were angered by Lu Chen, but they couldn't say anything. Nameless. Why do you have to do this? Mabe pulled Lu Chen back. You're right. We're all smart people, so I'll get straight to the point. Think about it. Do you really benefit from offending Zhongxingu? You said that you don't want to rely on Zhongxingu, but can the Demonic Academy cut off all ties with the other academies? As far as I know, you guys are doing pretty well. It's a pity to cut it off like this. This time, it's true that we did something wrong, but you have to think about it from our point of view. You're destined to not be a fish in a pond. You're obediently following the rules now, but what about in the future? Just look at your resume and you'll know. You've overturned the rules of the three heavens. Also, do you really think that we didn't do anything? Haven't the Purple Sky Palace done anything recently? If it weren't for us threatening them, they would have flattened your demonic academy. Mabe finally spoke the truth. Lu Chen's anger subsided a little. Lu Chen sighed. I didn't expect you to want to kill me just because you're afraid of my potential. I think the Zhongxianji's vision is not as good as the Heavenly Music Pavilion's. The Heavenly Music Pavilion had offered generous gifts to win over Lu Chen, but the Zhongxiangu wanted to kill Lu Chen. Nameless, you've wronged us by saying that we want to kill you. The Venerable Immortal's intention is to restrict your development. We didn't lie to you. If you don't believe us, you can ask Etion if there has ever been a case of a dean dying in the Seoul Martial Hall. Lu Chen turned to look at Etion. Etion frowned and said, there hasn't been in the past. In other words, it was hard to say whether Lu Chen would really die in the Seoul Martial Hall this time. Etion, look at what you're saying. There hasn't been in the past, and there won't be in the future. There are so many deans watching the battle. If the Zhongxiangu didn't consider our prestige in the academy, do you think you'd still negotiate with us here? Mabe's words were somewhat trustworthy. Nameless, the reward for the 9th floor of the Seoul Martial Hall is already very good. We've never offered double the reward before, and we also hope to reconcile with you. Since you're not satisfied, how about this? We'll each take a step back and triple the reward. It won't hurt our relationship, and everyone will be happy. What do you think? Seeing that Lu Chen was a little hesitant, Mabe said, Nameless, if you want to leave the prosperous origin continent, you can't avoid the Zhongxiangu. Between the continents, unless the Immortal Academy isn't restricted, the other academies have to rely on the main academies of each continent to truly leave the continent. As long as you agree to continue to abide by the rules, develop the academy normally, and represent the Zhongxiangu in the continent's competition in the future, the Zhongxiangu will guarantee that we won't suppress you. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Represent the Zhongxiangu in the competition? Yes, to be precise, represent the prosperous origin continent. The competition between the continents is more intense than you think. Our Zhongxiangu can't afford to have a fire in our backyard. Then what about the demonic academy? Of course it's still your demonic academy. However, if you can really become the #1 in the prosperous origin continent, there will be a prosperous origin continent Zhongxiangu in the future. Lu Chen nodded. This was acceptable. Triple the reward, I feel like I'm still losing out. The difficulty of your twin Seoul Martial Hall is not small. Mabe's face darkened. Not small? That's for other people. For you, what kind of difficulty is there? Half a chair, throw a creation space, and you'll pass just by sitting there. It seems like the Seoul Martial Hall needs to be improved in the future. How about this? Since you guys are so sincere, I'll reluctantly agree. Lu Chen said, but the 2 stone lions in front of the Sengoku Hall are quite domineering. Oh, and the few vases in the corridor, I feel that if I put them in my demonic palace, they should add a lot of color. Large beads of sweat fell from Mabe's forehead. He gritted his teeth and said, Men, send the Lion King spirit statue in front of the Sengoku Hall and the 4 Seasons Rui vase in the hall to the Demonic Academy. Chapter 1007. When they came out of the Sengoku Hall, the vase and stone lion were gone. They should have been sent to the Demonic Academy. However, the strange thing was that the other decorations in the hall were also gone. Long Xiang muttered to Saiji. They were probably afraid that the dean would take a fancy to something else, so they quickly put away the Sengoku Hall. The dean is really ruthless. He didn't even let go of the vase. It's really scary. Indeed. Just look at Mabe's expression and you can tell how much pain he felt. He even took away the stone lion that protected the house. The dean is indeed the dean. Normal people wouldn't be able to do that. They really gained face this time. I've never seen Zhongxiangu lower their voice to any other academy. Not long after, everyone returned to the Seoul Martial Hall. Zhongxiangu personally announced that the Seoul Martial Hall had to stop the test because of a malfunction. As compensation, Zhongxiangu generously counted Nameless as passing the Seoul Martial Hall. As for the triple reward, they didn't mention it. Zhongxiangu made themselves sound very generous. They purposely didn't mention Lu Chen's strength. However, Lu Chen didn't care about that. It was fine as long as he got the reward. He didn't care if others recognized his strength or not. What they wanted was a reputation. Then he'll give it to them. It was fine as long as it didn't affect his reward. Ma Bei personally brought Lu Chen to the treasure room corresponding to the Seoul Martial Hall. They went straight to the 9th floor. Nameless. The left side is the Academy's reward. Normally, you can choose any 3 rewards. However, since it's a triple reward, you can choose 9. The right side is the individual reward. Normally, you can choose 1. You can choose 3. Lu Chen frowned slightly. That's all. Ma Bei smiled faintly. If you want more, the rewards from the first few floors are more than enough. However, the rewards from the 9th floor are all the best. Even our Zhongxiangu isn't rich enough to give out treasures of this level so casually. Don't worry, we won't lie to you about this kind of thing. After that, you still need to show us the reward. Oh, just show us the reward. I hope you won't spread the news about the triple reward. Since they still wanted to display the prizes, Lu Chen wasn't afraid that they would tamper with it. He nodded and said, "Then I'll choose the Academy's prize first." "All right, I'll bring you in." The two of them entered the Academy's reward area first. As soon as he arrived at the Academy's reward area, Lu Chen was attracted by the treasures here. There didn't seem to be many treasures here. The distance between each treasure was very large. Every treasure was carefully placed on a special display counter. The treasures were all faintly glowing. One could tell at a glance that they weren't ordinary items. Lu Chen saw sets of swords and walked forward to take a look. There was a very short description in front of each set of swords. Soaring Purple Light Sword Set, 27 pieces. Quasi-Relic, main element of light. Quasi-Relic. Lu Chen's eyes widened. The quality of this set of swords could at least reach the level of Silver Bile. He looked at the other display counters. Thunder God Armor Set, 5 pieces. Quasi-Relic, full defense, physical damage reduction. Ma Bei, if I choose this set of Thunder God Armor, do I choose 1 piece at a time or? Lu Chen asked. Ma Bei smiled. Of course it's a set. How can you choose 1 piece at a time be worthy of the reward for clearing the Seoul Martial Hall? Lu Chen nodded. Although he could only choose 9 pieces of the reward, it was true that the value of 1 piece of the reward was high. Apart from the equipment, there were also skills, mental cultivation methods, control skills, super powerful pills, recipes, furnaces, and even a battle pet egg that Lu Chen saw. All the good things that were hard to come by were here. Lu Chen walked to the corner and found that there seemed to be the outline of a display counter here. It was covered by a layer of cloth and there were many things piled up on top of it. Lu Chen frowned and began to move the things on top of it. Nameless, what are you doing? I think it's too messy here, so I'm helping to clean up. After putting down the things, Lu Chen lifted the thick layer of cloth. There was indeed a display counter inside. Moreover, there was something else. There was a book inside. Lu Chen stuck it to read. What's the meaning of this set of Academy mental cultivation methods? Lu Chen looked at the book strangely. The description said that this was a set of Academy mental cultivation methods. Ma Bei was speechless. He muttered, "Why is this book still here? Didn't they put it away more than 10 years ago?" What's the matter? Lu Chen asked curiously. Oh, no, nothing. Well, you just asked about the Academy mental cultivation methods. In fact, many skills and mental cultivation methods can only be used by one person and are destroyed at the same time after use. However, there are very few mental cultivation methods that can be practiced repeatedly. Many academies will use these skills and mental cultivation methods as the foundation for all academies to practice together. This heavenly word mental cultivation method is one of them. That's why it's called Academy Mental Cultivation Methods. Practice repeatedly. Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. Sit. But I have to remind you that the advantage of those one-time mental cultivation methods is that once you learn them, you can break through as long as you meet the requirements later on. After breaking through, you don't need to learn them repeatedly. However, this kind of mental cultivation method requires you to comprehend and break through on your own. Moreover, you can't learn them all at once. After breaking through, you have to learn the content of the next level again. On the whole, it's still quite troublesome. Who doesn't want to master a mental cultivation method in one step? To comprehend and break through level by level is too troublesome for students. Why don't you take a look at the other rewards? Lu Chen didn't listen to Ma Bei. After thinking about it, this was quite suitable as the Academy's foundation mental cultivation method. The key was that mental cultivation methods were already difficult to get, let alone a mental cultivation method that appeared at level 9. Do you have any other Academy skills or mental cultivation methods here? As for the others, this kind of repetitive learning method isn't so easy to get. There's only one heavenly word mental cultivation method here. I feel that you should choose some rewards for those top students. I'll take this heavenly word mental cultivation method first. Lu Chen directly opened the display stand and took the heavenly word mental cultivation method first. Ma Bei's heart was bleeding. This guy didn't listen to his suggestions at all. Coincidentally, he had taken a fancy to this mental cultivation method at first glance. The first reward he chose made his heart ache. Zhongxian Gu originally intended to give this mental cultivation method to their disciples to practice. Later on, because the first level of the mental cultivation method had a spiritual power circulation method that people couldn't understand, they chose another mental cultivation method of the same level. This one was no longer useful after being eliminated, so it was temporarily placed here and hidden away. Although Zhongxiangu already had its own Academy's mental cultivation method now, this one was eliminated, but it didn't mean that this mental cultivation method wasn't good. Using a mental cultivation method of the same level as Zhongxianji's disciples. It was like breaking up with a girlfriend not because of bad conditions, but because of some misunderstanding. Now that he saw her being taken away by someone else, he also felt heartache. There are so many treasures here. I have to take a good look at them. Ma Bei, why don't you wait for me outside? Lu Chen rolled up his sleeves, looking like he was going to do something big. Forget it, I'll accompany you. Otherwise, I won't be at ease. Ma Bei shook his head and swallowed his bitterness. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.